Jiang Chengxuan was already prepared. Without hesitation, he summoned the 9 wonders Bodhi lotus lamp. In an instant, a 9-colored divine lotus slowly bloomed in the twisted void, injecting a spark of vitality into the suffocating atmosphere. The immense celestial energy surged fiercely into Jiang Chengxuan's body, instantly pushing his aura to the perfection of the celestial immortal realm. However, Jiang Chengxuan knew this wasn't enough. With a thought, 4 ancient and mysterious celestial peaks rose from the heavenly realm, releasing a blinding radiance. 4 primal runes manifested, showing an ancient and vast power, standing guard at the 4 corners, further enhancing the mystical power of his heavenly realm. Boom! Immediately, the suppression from the blood magic immortal crashed down onto Jiang Chengxuan's heavenly realm. The cosmic brilliance erupted fiercely, swallowing a 100-mile radius into the turbulent chaos. The terrifying aura spread out, causing space to crumble inch by inch, ravaging the surrounding areas. Under the aftermath of this explosion, even the 3 magic lords of the Blood Gate couldn't maintain their footing. They staggered back, their eyes filled with awe. At the same time, a cruel and heated joy filled their hearts. With such overwhelming power, no matter how strong Jiang Chengxuan might be, he was still only a celestial immortal. How could he resist? It was certain that he would die. However, the one behind all of this, the blood magic immortal, didn't appear as menacing as the beast-covering magic lord and the others. He seemed to notice something and was momentarily stunned, disbelief flashing in his eyes. His expression grew even more vicious. When the chaos cleared, the 3 magic lords of the Blood Gate looked over at Jiang Chengxuan and saw an incredibly brilliant light still shining from his position, unextinguished. This sight made them all gasp in shock, their eyes wide with disbelief. They nearly screamed in astonishment. How is this possible? That was the blood magic immortal's attack. No matter how they couldn't believe it, the terrifying aftermath slowly dissipated, leaving the surroundings in ruin. But Jiang Chengxuan remained completely unharmed. This meant that under the furious blow of the blood magic immortal, Jiang Chengxuan had used some unimaginable method to completely defend against it. To think this was a true golden immortal, and Jiang Chengxuan was only a celestial immortal. The power of the golden immortal realm truly lives up to its reputation. Under the furious gaze of the blood magic immortal and the astonishment of the beast-covering magic lord and the others, Jiang Chengxuan stood tall, bathed in the celestial light of the primal runes. He looked up at them and said calmly. These words made the atmosphere around them even colder, as if a needle could be heard dropping. If before, Jiang Chengxuan had merely withstood the pressure of the golden immortal realm, it could still be explained by some tricks. But now, he had truly withstood the blood magic immortal's attack, proving that Jiang Chengxuan had the strength to resist and even battle against a golden immortal. The blood magic immortal could faintly sense this, but he couldn't accept it. Without responding to Jiang Chengxuan, he glared with fury and launched another ruthless attack. This time, the blood magic immortal held nothing back. With the eruption of his power, the invisible cosmic energy above turned solid. The scene overshadowed the void in darkness, as if every star was burning with terrifying power. A wave of magic light devoured the surrounding world, pulling it into that universe. Jiang Chengxuan felt his surroundings suddenly become strange. It was as if he had entered a realm of destruction similar to when he first entered the celestial immortal fragments. One by one, demonic stars hung in the universe, surrounding him tightly in an impenetrable embrace. In this universe of the blood magic immortal, he could alter everything, including the laws, space, and even time. And with his power, he could pull Jiang Chengxuan into his universe without any effort. You're the first celestial immortal to force me to act like this. In the endless void, Jiang Chengxuan could no longer see where the blood magic immortal was. His voice seemed to reverberate from all directions. What if you're a golden immortal? Don't even think about making me submit. Even though he was trapped in the blood magic immortal's universe, Jiang Chengxuan remained unfazed and fearless. Carrying the brilliance of the heavenly realm, he stood tall, never showing any signs of retreat. His voice resonated with unshakable confidence as he shouted into the endless universe. His words were filled with defiance, showing that even the might of the golden immortal couldn't make him yield. Under normal circumstances, Jiang Chengxuan wouldn't have provoked a golden immortal, but when there was no escape, he wouldn't retreat either. HMPH, facing death and still speaking boldly. Upon hearing Jiang Chengxuan's words, the blood magic immortal's fury reached new heights. His killing intent surged, and his bloodthirsty nature flared up. He was never someone to hide his emotions. Jiang Chengxuan's provocation was like adding fuel to the fire, pushing his murderous desire to its peak. In an instant, with an earth-shattering roar, demonic stars began burning fiercely in the universe, and waves of demonic energy surged toward the heavens, distorting space. This time, Jiang Chengxuan felt an overwhelming pressure, far greater than before. The invisible demonic energy swept in, infiltrating every crevice. 10,000 Worlds Manifestation Sutra, activate. Without hesitation, Jiang Chengxuan recited the sacred sutra. Countless 10,000 Worlds Manifestation runes appeared from his heavenly realm, transforming into a miniature golden universe. The sacred aura empowered his heavenly realm, adding a powerful defense. At that moment, within Jiang Chengxuan's heavenly realm, even the sky above seemed to manifest a faint illusion of a universe. This meant that his power had reached the point where he could almost rival a golden immortal, stepping halfway into their realm. Next, Jiang Chengxuan felt the immortal energy within him burning. The 9 Wonders Bodhi lotus lamp operated to its limit, and the aura of the golden immortal artifact grew wild as it actively attacked. Seeing this, the blood magic immortal growled, seeking death, and immediately launched endless demonic energy to suppress Jiang Chengxuan. Boom! In an instant, their forces collided without any finesse. The violent explosion shook the entire universe, causing even the stars to tremble. Aftershocks exploded as magic energy and celestial light clashed, devouring and crushing each other. Chaos and starlight sped through the universe, stirring up storms everywhere. This was the power that could only be used in a clash between golden immortals, showing that the blood magic immortal regarded Jiang Chengxuan as a true opponent. The terrifying scene of their clash made the 3 magic lords of the Blood Gate, who were hiding nearby, tremble with fear. They couldn't imagine how tragic it would be for them if they faced such power. At the same time, they truly realized how terrifying Jiang Chengxuan was. Each time they met, Jiang Chengxuan grew stronger. Now, even facing their own ancestor, he didn't need to use the golden immortal artifact to resist and still posed a threat. This was far too terrifying. This child must not be allowed to live. In an instant, all 3 of them had the same thought. No matter what Jiang Chengxuan's connection to Yunlin immortal sect was, allowing him to live was equivalent to releasing a tiger into the mountains. As enemies of Jiang Chengxuan, they had no doubt that, given more time, he might even break through to the golden immortal realm. At that point, not only would they be in danger, but the entire Blood Gate would face a disastrous fate. Ancestor, you must eliminate this demon. Looking towards the distant place where Jiang Chengxuan stood, the beast-covering lords of the 3 magic lords muttered to themselves. The terrifying power of the golden immortal wreaked havoc, tearing apart vast expanses of void. This kind of force was undoubtedly devastating. Yet for some reason, none of the 3 could bring themselves to fully believe that Jiang Chengxuan would fall. Chapter 1796, Fierce Battle with the Golden Immortal. The clash between Jiang Chengxuan and the blood magic immortal caused the vast universe to fall into chaos. Countless demonic energies, which had gathered into a sea of stars, continuously stirred and burned, as if the entire universe was engulfed in flames. In a certain part of the gathering demonic energy, the blood magic immortal once again revealed himself. His immortal power surged, and his aura was overwhelming as he stood with his hands behind his back, coldly observing the place where Jiang Chengxuan had once stood, now consumed by chaos and demonic torrents. With a dismissive look in his eyes, the blood magic immortal seemed to mock Jiang Chengxuan for his arrogance, convinced that under such overwhelming power, Jiang Chengxuan could not possibly remain unharmed. Ancestors' heavenly might, we are in awe of you. At this moment, beast-congregating demon lord and the other 2 disciples appeared behind the blood magic immortal, bowing respectfully. The blood magic immortal's expression darkened, and with a cold grunt he released his pressure, pushing it toward the 3 disciples, saying indifferently, "Once I kill this boy, I will settle the scores with you. Useless fools." Despite Jiang Chengxuan showing some extraordinary abilities, this did not justify the blood magic immortal forgiving the mistakes of beast-congregating demon lord and the others. The 3 disciples, drenched in cold sweat, internally cursed but dared not defy him. They could only continue flattering, saying, "The ancestor's punishment is accepted with joy. This boy has many strange abilities. Please, ancestor, kill him and avenge our blood magic sect." In their hearts, they were constantly worried about Jiang Chengxuan's survival. Even though the blood magic immortal was supremely confident, they still felt uncertain. "I will strike and this boy will die without a doubt. Are you questioning me?" The blood magic immortal's gaze turned cold, and a shout made Beast congregating Demon Lord and the others tremble in fear. However, before any further explanation could be made, a sudden voice interrupted their conversation. "Die without a doubt, I don't think so." The voice echoed through the turbulent chaos, and everyone, including the blood magic immortal and Beast congregating Demon Lord, froze for a moment. The blood magic immortal's eyes turned cold, a murderous intent surging. He quickly turned to look in the direction of the voice. Through the dissipating darkness and chaos in the midst of a shattered universe, fragments of stars drifting and demonic energy wreaking havoc, Jiang Chengxuan's figure stood tall. Surrounded by a radiant aura of the Xuan realm, he stood alone, unharmed. Except for the light around him dimming slightly, Jiang Chengxuan appeared completely unaffected, having once again blocked the full force of the blood magic immortal's attack. This sight caused the blood magic immortal's face to turn ashen, and the faces of Beast congregating Demon Lord and his companions went pale. Jiang Chengxuan's appearance, completely unscathed, was another slap to the face of the blood magic immortal, who had earlier been so confident that he had already killed Jiang Chengxuan. "Good, good, good, you really have some skill." After a long silence, the blood magic immortal stared at Jiang Chengxuan and, filled with rage, laughed coldly. Jiang Chengxuan, however, remained expressionless, his face resolute. He said nothing, standing with the calmness of a mountain. To block the blood magic immortal's attack, Jiang Chengxuan had used every method at his disposal: timeless scriptures, primal runes, and the 9 marvelous Badhai lotus lamp. All converged to perfectly neutralize the attack. Given that this was within the universe of a golden immortal, and Jiang Chengxuan was still only at the immortal stage, achieving this was already an unfathomable feat, one that would leave any onlooker stunned. "This time, I want to see how many times you can block me." With those words, the battle resumed. The blood magic immortal had been humiliated by Jiang Chengxuan once too many times, and now he finally decided to unleash his full power. In an instant, the boundless demonic energy of the entire universe trembled once again. The demonic energy and light transformed into torrents, gradually spiraling into a whirlpool. At the center of this whirlpool, the blood magic immortal greedily absorbed the surrounding energy. His immortal power surged to new heights, skyrocketing into the sky. Suddenly, Jiang Chengxuan's expression grew more serious as he saw the blood magic immortal's body rapidly enlarging. The blood magic immortal transformed into an enormous giant, spanning across the entire universe. His size was incomprehensibly vast. Stars seemed no larger than pebbles as they floated around him. The river of magic energy coiled around him like a mere thread. This massive form, composed of unimaginable power, occupied most of the universe. His eyes, like true black suns, glowed with a dazzling radiance. At that moment, the blood magic immortal's aura reached its peak. Even Beast congregating Demon Lord and his companions, positioned beneath his vast form, struggled to stand and shivered from the immense pressure. As the blood magic immortal's gaze fell upon Jiang Chengxuan, the entire universe seemed to hum with energy. An invisible force surged toward Jiang Chengxuan, making his heart stop for a moment. This force arrived in an instant, crashing into the Xuan realm surrounding Jiang Chengxuan. For a moment, even the shimmering barrier of the Xuan realm trembled violently, and cracks appeared. Just one glance from the blood magic immortal was more terrifying than the earlier attack. This scene made even Jiang Chengxuan's eyes narrow. The sudden onslaught destabilized his breath. But Jiang Chengxuan quickly steadied himself, and with unwavering determination, he began to circulate his immortal power. He called upon the 9 marvelous Badhai lotus lamp and primal runes to resist the incoming attack. Chapter 1797, Fierce Battle with the Golden Immortal, Part 2. Boom! At this moment, the turbulent Xuanyuan realm stabilized, splitting apart waves of impact, standing firm under the oppressive pressure of the blood demon immortal. However, this was merely the beginning. As the blood demon immortal revealed his demonic form, his black sun-like eyes shot forth beams of demonic light, covering the sky and obscuring the sun. Under this overwhelming pressure, Jiang Chengxuan felt an unprecedented sense of threat. This power was truly a golden immortal's divine ability, surpassing any enemy he had faced before. Without a doubt, Jiang Chengxuan could no longer resolve this assault by relying on his own strength alone. He understood this clearly in his heart, and without hesitation, he brought out his trump card. In an instant, a talisman infused with 9-colored brilliance appeared in his hand. He ignited it with his celestial power, and it burned brightly. In that moment, another burst of golden immortal-level power erupted, manifesting a pale, illusory cosmic image. This was one of the life-saving talismans given to Jiang Chengxuan by Elder Yunqi before his departure. Without any hesitation, in this critical moment, Jiang Chengxuan activated the talisman, transforming it into a brilliant river of stars, launching it toward the blood demon immortal. The power of this talisman was incredibly powerful. In the darkness, it forcibly tore open a white trajectory, swallowing all the pressure in its path, devouring the demonic light. Although it was a golden immortal talisman, unlike when it was used by the beast-concealing demon Venerable and others, when in Jiang Chengxuan's hands, it unleashed even more terrifying power. However, this still wasn't enough to turn the tide. Under Jiang Chengxuan's continuous infusion of celestial power, the golden immortal talisman exploded with shocking force, but compared to the blood demon immortal, whose strength was rooted in the entire universe, this was still just a drop in the ocean. Soon, the pale trajectory in the demonic light began to weaken, shrinking under the relentless pressure of the blood demon immortal, growing slower, almost stagnant. A single talisman, and you think you can stop me? Seeing this, the blood demon immortal sneered, his voice booming like thunder, shaking the universe. Jiang Chengxuan remained unfazed, his gaze burning with battle intent, and he retorted, "One isn't enough, then two." At his command, another golden immortal talisman appeared in his hand, imbued with the same celestial power. The two talismans burned together, their powers resonating and intertwining. In the blink of an eye, another wave of pale light surged forward, tearing through the boundless darkness and chaos. Under this surge, the nearly stagnant white light exploded again, its power increasing as it was reignited, inch by inch, advancing towards the blood demon immortal. Seeing this, the beast-concealing demon Venerable and the others froze, shocked that Jiang Chengxuan still had a second golden immortal talisman. They were unaware of the relationship between Jiang Chengxuan and Elder Yunqi of the Yunlin immortal sect, and could not fathom how such a precious life-saving talisman could be given to him, let alone two. But deep within the vortex beneath him, the blood demon immortal began to absorb even more demonic energy, quickly realizing what was happening. He stretched out a colossal hand, sweeping towards the incoming power. With a single finger, he condensed a star formed from dark energy. The star exploded and unleashed a torrent that shot across the void, heading straight for the talisman's power. Boom! Immediately, the two forces clashed in the universe, constantly devouring each other, as if two galaxies were colliding head-on, creating dazzling destruction, fire, and thunder, almost engulfing everything within 1,000 miles. Countless stars were incinerated by the terrifying shockwaves, shattered into pieces. This was truly the spectacle of a battle between golden immortal powerhouses, indistinguishable from any clash of such great beings. In this clash of power, the three demon venerables from the beast-concealing sect, who were also at the late stage of the Xuan immortal realm, appeared extremely insignificant. They were like a small boat amidst a great wave, barely able to maintain their balance, drifting helplessly. Not enough. In the heart of the battlefield, Jiang Chengxuan felt as though he was carrying the weight of a world. Even with the 9-wonder Bodhi lotus lamp aiding him, he felt almost drained of celestial energy. This was the first time since obtaining the Bodhi lotus lamp that Jiang Chengxuan felt such overwhelming powerlessness. But in this crucial moment, he could not give up. With gritted teeth, Jiang Chengxuan retrieved the last life-saving talisman that Elder Yunqi had given him from the Xuanyuan realm. Enduring the weightless feeling in his celestial body, Jiang Chengxuan infused his energy into the talisman, igniting it and sending it forth with determination. The three golden immortal talismans were now activated simultaneously, a feat requiring energy comparable to withstanding a full-force strike from a golden immortal. Without the Bodhi lotus lamp, even a fully perfected Xuan immortal would not be able to pull this off. As the third talisman was activated, even the Bodhi lotus lamp dimmed slightly. But in response, The vast, nearly broken universe glowed even more intensely, swelling in a storm of furious power. Damn, there's even more. This scene took the blood demon immortal by surprise, and instinctively he cursed it out loud. In the blink of an eye, the three forces from the golden immortal talismans fused together, their powers resonating and amplifying. The combined force broke through the layers of demonic light, pushing closer to the blood demon immortal with unstoppable momentum. In an instant, the endless white light sliced through the darkness, and the blood demon immortal's location was swallowed by the explosion, a massive white sun erupting from his chest. Boom! The explosion caused by the talisman's power shattered the cosmos, quelling the darkness, causing the demonic light to vanish, and scattering the demonic energy far and wide. In the midst of the deafening explosion, the entire universe trembled and countless stars fell, turning to ash. How is this possible? The ancestor. Hiss, he wounded the ancestor. Among them, the beast-concealing demon Venerable and the other two were the most shocked. Seeing that Jiang Chengxuan had actually struck their own ancestor, they gasped in disbelief, their eyes wide with horror. Even from the edge of the battlefield, they could feel the devastating power of the strike, and under such power, Jiang Chengxuan had managed to counterattack, even wounding the blood demon immortal. This had far exceeded their wildest imaginations. For generations, it had been a known truth that those beneath the golden immortal realm were insignificant, a law unbroken for millennia. But now Jiang Chengxuan was breaking all of that. How could they not be shaken? As they faced the raging aftershocks of the battle, the beast-concealing demon Venerable and his companions had exhausted all their energy. But in their hearts, the storm was far from over. Even though they had overestimated Jiang Chengxuan and constantly reminded themselves that their ancestor had to eliminate him once and for all, they had never imagined that Jiang Chengxuan could reach such heights, facing a golden immortal and achieving the impossible. Having witnessed this legendary moment, they were not excited in the slightest. Instead, they felt a cold shiver run down their spines. If they had never plotted against the parents of Yun Nanfeng, perhaps none of this would have happened. They would not have faced Jiang Chengxuan, nor caused the chain of events that led to this moment. Now they were up against a genius, a monster. Whoosh, whoosh. On the other side of the battlefield, Jiang Chengxuan panted heavily, his breathing shallow and fatigued. His gaze remained determined, though it lacked the usual brilliance. The strain from this counterattack had drained nearly all his energy, pushing him to his limits. Though he had successfully repelled the blood demon immortal, this victory left him feeling elated yet physically drained. He knew that with the blood demon immortal's power, he could not afford to relax. He had to recover as much as possible in this precious moment, because the blood demon immortal was far from being easily defeated. Chapter 1798, Injuring a Golden Immortal, Battle Outcome Part 1. This was the most powerful offensive ever displayed by Jiang Chengxuan. Facing the Huangzu Mo Xian, who was revealing his true power, Jiang Chengxuan pushed himself to his limit and fought back with all his might. However, as the flow of immortal energy circulated, the energy of the Xuanji gradually began to recover. Looking toward the distant thunder and chaos gradually calming down, Jiang Chengxuan showed no signs of relaxation. That was the location of the Huangzu Mo Xian, and the Beast Vault Demon Lord and the others also looked on, trembling, anxiously concerned about their ancestors' safety. As Jiang Chengxuan had expected, after the destructive shockwaves dissipated, a dark, shadowy figure emerged from the turbulent sky. Immediately, Jiang Chengxuan's eyes narrowed, and he couldn't help but feel a sense of disappointment. On the other hand, the Beast Vault Demon Lord and the others revealed sharp glints in their eyes, secretly rejoicing in their hearts. It appeared that, at some point, a layer of twisted darkness had enveloped the Huangzu Mo Xian's demonic body, blocking almost all of Jiang Chengxuan's three-layered talismanic power. The gigantic form of the Huangzu Mo Xian only had a massive hole blasted through its chest and abdomen. Pale flames clung to the wound, burning fiercely, producing thick clouds of black smoke. Whoa! Then, as Jiang Chengxuan and the others looked on, a fierce wind howled as a thick layer of darkness receded like a tide, revealing the Huangzu Mo Xian's true form once again in the universe. At this moment, his face was twisted in rage, his demonic eyes burning fiercely with murderous intent. Clearly, being unexpectedly injured by Jiang Chengxuan had infuriated him. Since becoming a golden immortal, he had never suffered such an insult. Though Jiang Chengxuan's attack had only inflicted a minor injury, he, a mere Zhan immortal, dared to harm a dignified golden immortal. This was intolerable. The more the Huangzu Moxian thought about it, the angrier he became. In the stillness, the universe seemed to begin boiling, as though a great wave was about to erupt. Demonic energy surged, and one star after another trembled, quaking under the pressure. Invisible waves of oppression again covered the heavens and earth. This time, the Huangzu Moxian had no intention of making threats. He only wanted to immediately, ruthlessly erase Jiang Chengxuan to avenge his anger and wash away his shame. Without any preamble, the Huangzu Moxian looked down at Jiang Chengxuan. With a single thought, the darkness in the entire universe began to swirl, devoured greedily by him. His massive demonic form vibrated continuously, as if the very heart of the world was beating, causing the entire universe to tremble like the war drums of a primordial battle. Upon seeing this, Jiang Chengxuan took a deep breath, the forces within the Xuanji churning once more. The aura of the primordial symbols flowed out, and the 9 Miao Bodhi lotus lamp continuously circulated. Without a doubt, this was going to be the Huangzu Moxian's strongest attack yet. And at this moment, Jiang Chengxuan was in a weakened state. This battle would likely be one of life and death. No matter what, he had to give everything he had, using all his strength to face this strike. Ding! However, in the midst of this stillness, a strange buzzing sound suddenly rang out in Jiang Chengxuan's mind. For a moment, it felt as though time itself had stagnated. Jiang Chengxuan's grave expression faltered for a moment. Please complete the achievement of surviving at the hands of a golden immortal. This was undoubtedly a prompt from the system, and the task soon appeared. Hearing this, Jiang Chengxuan's heart did not stir too much. Regardless of whether the system gave him this task or not, his actions would not change. Nevertheless, the appearance of this task strengthened Jiang Chengxuan's resolve, and his battle intent soared. Without thinking much more, Jiang Chengxuan saw, amidst the trembling universe, the Huangzu Moxian about to strike. Surrounded by a storm of demonic light, a treasure appeared in his palm, exuding an astonishing aura of destruction. This treasure resembled a sickle, yet its form twisted and extended countless sharp bone-like spines. It appeared as if it was forged from human bones, terrifyingly grotesque and chilling. Undoubtedly, this was a golden immortal's treasure. It was the Huangzu Moxian's fated weapon. Earlier, he had thought Jiang Chengxuan was unworthy of facing this treasure, but now, driven by rage, he cared not for anything but tearing Jiang Chengxuan apart. This object was named the Yin Sen Terror Scythe, a treasure that had accompanied the Huangzu Moxian as he ascended to the golden immortal level. It had sacrificed the bones and blood of countless powerful beings, even wounding golden immortal cultivators. When this Yin Sen Terror Scythe was raised, an invisible sharpness seemed to pierce through the universe, as if a blade was cutting through the bodies of all beings. As the Huangzu Moxian infused endless demonic energy into the scythe, it grew larger, its terrifying destructive power filling every corner of the universe, causing the very space to become unstable. In the unseen flow of fate, both Jiang Chengxuan and the Beast Vault Demon Lord felt that if this treasure struck, the entire universe would be severed. This was a true golden immortal treasure, wielded by a genuine golden immortal cultivator, capable of unleashing catastrophic power. In an instant, a terrifying storm gathered. Countless tiny flashes of sharp intent flickered like lights, slicing through stars and exploding into clouds of dust. Broken heaven and earth scroll, sacrifice. Seeing this, Jiang Chengxuan stood firm in the storm, his fighting spirit unbroken. In an instant, he too chose to invoke his final trump card, a golden immortal treasure. From within his Xuanji, 2 immense streams of light, one blue and one pale, surged forth. Chapter 1799, Injuring the Golden Immortal, Battle Outcome Part 2. In the void, the two powers intertwined, condensing into a mysterious scroll. Without hesitation, Jiang Chengxuan activated the 9 mystical Bodhi lotus lamp, channeling the power of 2 golden immortal treasures and pouring infinite immortal energy into the withering ancient heaven scroll. Under this force, a 9-colored beam of light shot upwards, cutting through the universe, and a towering gateway stood, radiating overwhelming power. Boom! Terrifying thunder exploded, lighting up the darkness for 100 miles. The aura of decay dispersed, and even the overwhelming pressure and sharp intent were suppressed. At Jiang Chengxuan's relentless urging, the withering ancient heaven scroll gradually unfurled, and the cosmic gate that cut through the dark universe continued to open, revealing a shocking and awe-inspiring scene. It was another barren universe, where shattered stars scattered, and flowing light moved everywhere, forming a tree-like totem that covered the entire vision. At the sight, the bloodthirsty demon immortal narrowed his eyes, a hint of wariness and uncertainty in his gaze. He hadn't expected that at such a moment, Jiang Chengxuan still had a hidden trump card, and such a powerful golden immortal treasure, kept hidden until now. It was at this moment that the bloodthirsty demon immortal finally realized the depth of Jiang Chengxuan's power. Despite being a Xuan immortal, Jiang Chengxuan had battled him to this point. This was enough for him to say, "This child must not be left alive." Thus, the bloodthirsty demon immortal became more determined to slay Jiang Chengxuan here. He activated the yin-searing death scythe to its maximum power, and a surge of black light erupted, extending across thousands of miles, splitting the universe in half. At that moment, the two golden immortal treasures were simultaneously charging up, their apocalyptic powers threatening to tear the universe apart. Under this level of pressure, even the Beast Cave Demon Lord and his companions, who were in the late stages of the Xuan immortal realm, were frozen in place, feeling that these terrifying forces could kill them hundreds of times over. Boom! Time and space seemed to warp as the two powers collided, as if two supernovas were exploding, threatening to annihilate the world. With a swing of the ancient scythe in the bloodthirsty demon immortal's hand, endless darkness and cold light surged forward, swallowing half the dark universe. Stars shattered at its path, splitting in half with a flash of cold light, directly severed. Simultaneously, the withering ancient heaven scroll fully unfurled. The cosmic gate in the dark universe gathered momentum, and the terrifying light of decay surged out, spreading across the other half of the dark universe. It devoured all darkness, destroying everything with its strange glow, causing space to shatter into pieces. This was a true golden immortal level clash. The resulting thunderous roar covered the entire universe. In an instant, the two forces collided, and the heavens and earth fell into an eerie silence. The aura of destruction and brilliance nearly consumed everything. Chaos raged, as all existence seemed to be crushed into a single point. Whether it was the bloodthirsty demon immortal or Jiang Chengxuan, both vanished in the aftermath of this clash. All that remained was the ceaseless destruction of the heaven light and darkness, endlessly erupting. Countless stars exploded, and waves of divine light surged, sweeping over every inch of space. The terrifying sound waves even spread beyond the dark universe. Somewhere in the ancient golden immortal's cave, the sky seemed to tear open, and shockwaves poured out, shattering the earth. The Beast Cave Demon Lord and his companions were sucked into the chaos, not knowing where they were, barely maintaining their magic realm, struggling to survive in the storm of darkness. It was unclear how long the cataclysm lasted, but gradually, the terrifying destruction began to subside. When the Beast Cave Demon Lord and the others finally opened their eyes, they saw that the dark universe was now a complete mess, filled with gaping voids and asteroid fields created by shattered stars. Before swallowing Jiang Chengxuan into this dark universe, the bloodthirsty demon immortal had never anticipated that Jiang Chengxuan would possess such strength. If he had known, he would not have been so reckless. Such a battle tactic was only meant for crushing enemies. Otherwise, it was too easy for accidents to happen, much like how a Xuan immortal might accidentally swallow their opponent into the Xuan realm. Fortunately, as a golden immortal, his universe was stable enough. Otherwise, such a spectacle could have backfired and severely wounded him. Roar! However, the bloodthirsty demon immortal was not in a perfect state either. This terrifying clash had still caused some backlash, though he suppressed it. A chaotic energy stirred within him, causing him great discomfort, and wounds appeared on his demonic body. This result was enough for Jiang Chengxuan to be proud of, injuring a golden immortal with a Xuan immortal's cultivation. Such an achievement, in the history of the ancient world, would be hard to find for thousands of years. However, at this moment, Jiang Chengxuan had no strength left to celebrate. The backlash from the clash had left his breathing erratic, and even his Xuan realm trembled. Even behind him, the withering ancient heaven scroll had suffered some damage, something unprecedented. The totem formed by the swirling stars was torn open by the bloodthirsty demon immortal's attack, like a gaping wound, remaining on the scroll. "Kid, to think you could injure me, I admit you're somewhat strange." However, despite the lingering weakness in Jiang Chengxuan's aura, the bloodthirsty demon immortal's eyes were filled with intense focus. With a deep, rumbling voice, he declared, "But you will still die by my hand." At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan was truly at the end of his strength. He had no more moves left to defend himself. Both the bloodthirsty demon immortal and the beast cave demon lord felt a sense of relief and excitement. Erasing such a genius and prodigy was something they relished. It would also eliminate the possibility of Jiang Chengxuan seeking revenge for the bloodthirsty sect in the future. Despite his exhaustion, Jiang Chengxuan propped himself up. Standing tall and with a strong resolve, he said, "I will not die here." There was an inexplicable confidence in his voice, which momentarily stunned the bloodthirsty demon immortal. His gaze flickered. Could it be that Jiang Chengxuan still had a hidden card? The bloodthirsty demon immortal thought for a moment, then gave a cold snort and said, "Empty threats, you will die today." Even if Jiang Chengxuan had a trump card, so did he. Regardless of the cost, he would slay Jiang Chengxuan here. At this moment, the two of them stared across the void, each contemplating their next moves. Despite the explosion of battle until now, they had used all their techniques and demonstrated incredible power. Yet the end was still not near. "Ha ha ha, I thought it was someone else. Turns out it's you, old demon, shamelessly attacking a junior, how disgraceful." Just as the battle was about to break out once more, an unexpected voice suddenly rang out, passing through the dark void and echoing across the heavens and earth. Everyone was stunned, showing various expressions. Jiang Chengxuan's eyes lit up, and he let out a sigh of relief, while the bloodthirsty demon immortal's expression turned grim, his eyes filled with great seriousness. Both he and Jiang Chengxuan recognized the voice instantly. The next moment, the owner of the voice made a powerful entrance. A white light pierced the dark void, ripping apart the chaotic dark universe. Then an old man in luxurious robes appeared, stepping on light and standing before Jiang Chengxuan. Old Cloud Shaman. This figure exuded extraordinary energy, with an air of immortality. The only one who would dare to mock the bloodthirsty demon immortal was none other than the Old Cloud Shaman. At this critical moment, the Old Cloud Shaman had appeared on the battlefield, and his timely intervention was set to change the course of the battle. Chapter 1800, The Dust Settles, the Transaction of the Immortal Treasure. At the critical moment, Elder Xianxia suddenly appeared on the battlefield. His golden, immortal-level aura vibrated, resembling an invisible celestial canopy that spread throughout the shattered dark universe. In the midst of this, the chaotic energy settled, signaling that the dust of this great battle had finally fallen. "Ancestor Yun, you've arrived." In the midst of the standoff, Jiang Chengxuan broke the silence first and said with a helpless smile to Elder Xianxia. When the latter appeared, Jiang Chengxuan had already retracted the power that was about to be unleashed, and his serious expression softened. It was as if he had already known that Elder Xianxia would appear at this very moment. Upon hearing this, Elder Xianxia chuckled and stroked his long beard, smiling kindly as he replied, "He, as soon as I sensed the information from the talismans, I immediately rushed here. It seems I'm a little late, but I still made it just in time." It turned out that it was the 3 golden immortal talismans Jiang Chengxuan had simultaneously ignited that alerted Elder Xianxia, prompting him to arrive at this critical moment. Although he was a little late, once Jiang Chengxuan stopped the blood magic immortal from using his golden immortal treasure, everything was already decided. "Kid, don't joke around. With Ancestor Yun's help, I'm already deeply grateful. How could I be so greedy?" Jiang Chengxuan suddenly shifted his tone and bowed with a smile to Elder Xianxia. "Ha ha, you brat." Elder Xianxia laughed heartily, adding, "Even if I didn't come, you'd still have a way out. This false famous old demon probably can't do anything to you." At this, Elder Xianxia laughed with unusual delight, and then turned to mock the blood magic immortal, whose face had turned pale with anger. This remark immediately made the atmosphere even more tense, with a chilling air permeating the scene. Hearing Elder Xianxia's sarcasm, the blood magic immortal's eyes turned bloodshot, his teeth grinding in fury. His hatred for Jiang Chengxuan reached the point of almost going mad. The moment Elder Xianxia arrived, it marked the end of his defeat. With Elder Xianxia's intervention, he had no chance of killing Jiang Chengxuan anymore. Furthermore, the two were his greatest enemies, and once this battle ended, the fact that a mere Xuan immortal like Jiang Chengxuan had forced him, a golden immortal powerhouse, into such a situation would spread throughout the neighboring regions, and everyone would mock him. This imagined outcome caused the blood magic immortal's heart to bleed with rage, and he was almost desperate to roar in fury and recklessly kill everyone in his path. However, as Elder Yunxi and Jiang Chengxuan continued to chat, they secretly kept a watchful eye on his every move, prepared for any sudden attack. "You old fool, let me kill that brat. Then the feud between our sects will be over." After a moment, the blood magic immortal's eyes nearly split with rage as he glared at Elder Yunxi, roaring out with uncontainable hatred. This was the only plan he could think of at the moment, using a transaction to exchange for Jiang Chengxuan's life, even if it meant paying a price. To his surprise, upon hearing this, Elder Yunxi burst into even louder laughter, mocking him with a look of amusement. "You old demon, the more you live, the worse you get. I'm not like you, a devilish scoundrel who disregards morality. As for the grudge, feel free to bring it on. My Yunlan immortal sect isn't afraid of you." Elder Yunxi's reply was firm and decisive, his words leaving no room for doubt. This made Jiang Chengxuan secretly nod in approval, gaining even more respect for Elder Yunxi. In fact, Elder Yunxi's willingness to assist Jiang Chengxuan was not merely due to their personal connection, but because of the enormous potential hidden within Jiang Chengxuan. When Elder Yunxi first arrived in the shattered dark universe, he immediately sensed the terrifying battle that had once occurred here. There was no doubt that this was the aftermath of the battle between Jiang Chengxuan and the blood magic immortal. Elder Yunxi had always thought highly of Jiang Chengxuan, but witnessing the battle between Jiang Chengxuan and the blood magic immortal reaching this level shocked him. In his heart, he firmly decided to form a strong alliance with Jiang Chengxuan. Though Elder Yunxi usually looked down on the blood magic immortal, he was well aware of the latter's strength. The two had a long-standing grudge, having fought numerous times. Elder Yunxi knew full well that the blood magic immortal was no mere paper tiger. As the saying goes, your most understanding opponent is your greatest teacher, and this only confirmed how formidable Jiang Chengxuan's potential was. If Jiang Chengxuan were to break through to the golden immortal stage in the future, then with both sides united, what could the blood magic sect possibly do? This was one of Elder Yunxi's plans in his heart. "Yunxi, you bastard, very well, you want to oppose my blood magic sect. Die, you cursed fools, all of you should die." At that moment, Elder Yunxi's firm stance completely caused the blood magic immortal's anger to spiral out of control. The blood magic immortal's body trembled, his eyes blazing with fury. With a roar, he suddenly made his move. Instantly, the entire dark universe shook once more, as boundless demonic energy gathered to form a pitch-black giant hand that tore through the void, its terrifying aura sweeping the surroundings. However, with Elder Yunxi present, how could he allow such a furious attack to succeed? Without any action from Jiang Chengxuan, Elder Yunxi's eyes narrowed. He waved his hand, and a powerful golden immortal pressure exploded, shattering the blood magic immortal's blockade. Immediately, a sphere of white light erupted from Elder Yunxi, expanding at a visible speed, swallowing up the world. This formed another ethereal universe, full of starry lights and magnificent vastness. Then, with a thought from Elder Yunxi, a massive wave of golden immortal power surged, overlapping like layers of clouds. Chapter 1801. The dust settles, the trade of immortal treasures. Powerful purple energy beams shot out from the stars, transforming into thousands of celestial rivers, crashing towards the dark, colossal hand. Boom! In an instant, the black and white universes collided, creating a shockwave that could destroy heaven and earth. The deafening thunder rang out, and the sky lit up, swallowing everything in front of them. However, the aftermath of the collision quickly dissipated. Chaotic immortal energy spread everywhere, disturbing the void. Clearly, this clash resulted in no outcome. Everything returned to calm. The Elder of Yunxi and the Bloodfiend Immortal were still locked in a standoff, one calmly mocking, while the other seethed with rage. Alas, this! Seeing this, Beastcave Demon Lord and the others, hiding to the side, couldn't help but sigh inwardly. In their eyes, there was deep apprehension and regret. There was no doubt that even their own ancestor could do nothing against Jiang Chengxuan. From now on, the Bloodfiend sect would have an endless future trouble due to this. For a moment, the battlefield fell into a deadlock due to the unresolved clash. The Bloodfiend Immortal's anger had not subsided. No matter what, he didn't want to let Jiang Chengxuan leave just like that, yet there was nothing he could do about it. On the other side, Elder Yunqi seemed to be enjoying the blood-fiend immortal's helplessness, calmly protecting Jiang Chengxuan without any intention of leaving. As for Jiang Chengxuan, he stood firm like Mount Tai. With Elder Yunqi's protection, he was recovering his energy furiously without any distractions. "Wait for it, Yunqi, you fool." Finally, after a long silence, the blood-fiend immortal's eyes turned sharp, and he coldly threatened, ending this farce. However, just as he was about to turn and leave, Jiang Chengxuan suddenly spoke up, calling out, "Immortal demon, wait." Immediately, this voice echoed across the universe, making everyone present pause in surprise, including Elder Yunqi, who hadn't expected this. He turned around. Could it be that Jiang Chengxuan wanted to mock the blood-fiend immortal again, starting another conflict? Was this person really so reckless? For a moment everyone was silent, their expressions full of surprise, looking at Jiang Chengxuan. The blood-fiend immortal's face turned grim, his gaze unfriendly. Amidst the tense atmosphere, Jiang Chengxuan smiled as he calmly stepped forward. From within the Xuan realm, he retrieved 2 treasures and placed them in the void. At the sight of this, everyone's curiosity was piqued. The 2 items were revealed to be a ruined demon-subduing staff and a mysterious black cauldron, exuding a sinister glow. The reaction of Beast Cave Demon Lord and the others was the most intense. Their eyes widened, and their faces turned as pale as death, their hearts cursing bitterly. These were the 2 treasures from the Bloodfiend sect that Jiang Chengxuan had taken when they had previously attacked him. At that moment, Elder Yunqi, seeing Jiang Chengxuan's actions, seemed to have guessed his intentions, and, as expected, he was correct. Seeing the changing expressions of the Bloodfiend Immortal and Beast Cave Demon Lord, Jiang Chengxuan slowly spoke. "I have 2 treasures. I wonder if your sect is interested. How about we make a trade?" The scene once again fell into silence. The faces of the Bloodfiend sect's people turned alternately red and pale. They had never encountered such shameless behavior. To take someone else's treasures and then ask them to trade them back openly, wasn't that something a demon cultivator would do? Now, it was happening to them. Thinking this, even the anger that the Bloodfiend Immortal had worked so hard to suppress flared up again, his head throbbing as if it were about to explode with fury. At this time, Elder Yunqi, showing interest, chimed in. "These 2 treasures are extraordinary, truly marvelous treasures. Young friend, don't let anyone take them lightly." Hearing this, the people from the Bloodfiend sect felt their hearts throb once more, nearly spitting blood. This old man and young man were practically treating them like fish on a chopping board, to be slaughtered at will. However, this trade was one they had no choice but to make, for these 2 items were their sect's most precious treasures, crafted at great cost. "What do you want?" The Bloodfiend Immortal's voice was unexpectedly indifferent, as though he had aged several years in that instant. By this point, he had been forced to accept the failure, his anger now buried deep within, waiting for the right moment to erupt. Seeing this, Jiang Chengxuan no longer hesitated. His expression turned solemn as he said, "I only need any 3 cultivation source items of the golden immortal level." These so-called cultivation source items were resources that provided energy for cultivation. 3 such items were exactly what Jiang Chengxuan had planned for. With them, his chances of breaking through to the golden immortal level would increase, and the obstacles would be fewer. Moreover, this condition was perfectly reasonable. The Bloodfiend Immortal sect, being a golden immortal force, should have these items. Although it would cause them great loss and perhaps even damage their foundation, they could afford it. Compared to the 3 sect treasures, 3 golden immortal source items, though precious, were still slightly inferior. The Bloodfiend Immortal and the others quickly realized that Jiang Chengxuan must have been prepared all along. They had a rough idea of what these 3 cultivation source items would be used for. With a few more exchanges, the scene fell into another moment of deathly silence. Jiang Chengxuan, however, was not in a hurry and calmly waited for their response. "Fine, I agree." After what seemed like an eternity, the Bloodfiend Immortal finally suppressed his inner pain and shouted at Jiang Chengxuan. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan had grasped the Bloodfiend sect's lifeline, leaving them no room to negotiate. The Bloodfiend Immortal no longer wanted to stay any longer, not wanting to look at Jiang Chengxuan's face for another second. With a flash, he reached out and sent 3 glowing orbs of light from the Xuan realm, crossing through the void and distorting space. These 3 orbs gleamed brilliantly, filled with intense immortal energy and vitality, shining like meteors in the sky. At this moment, Elder Yunqi moved and intercepted the three orbs. After inspecting them, he passed them to Jiang Chengxuan and nodded. Seeing this, Jiang Chengxuan's eyes lit up with joy, his expression pleased. He didn't delay further, sending the two Bloodfiend sect treasures flying toward the Bloodfiend immortal. Buzz! You bunch of fools, useless! The Bloodfiend immortal cursed loudly as he received the two immortal treasures, his anger surging. He then quickly left the scene. As the figures of the Bloodfiend immortal and his group disappeared, this incident came to an end. With the three golden immortal source items in hand, Jiang Chengxuan beamed with joy, feeling a sense of relief in his heart. Although this battle had been intense, the final rewards were undeniably abundant. Not only had he fought against a true immortal and emerged victorious, accumulating battle experience, but in the end, he had also extorted three golden immortal source items from the Bloodfiend sect, filling in the gaps for his breakthrough to the golden immortal level. Haha, congratulations, young friend. The rewards from this adventure are no small matter, even I am envious. I wonder how those two immortal treasures ended up in your hands, Elder Yunqi joked, nodding in approval at Jiang Chengxuan's performance. Jiang Chengxuan naturally had nothing to hide from Elder Yunqi, and immediately recounted everything that had happened before. He told the story of Yun Zhuang's betrayal, how Yun Tian and Yun Dai had been ambushed, and how he had helped them. Then he mentioned how he had come to the ancient golden immortal cave. Upon hearing this, Elder Yunqi's eyes narrowed, his expression solemn as he sighed. He hadn't expected Yun Zhuang to betray the Yunlin immortal sect, even attacking Yun Tian and Yun Dai. Fortunately, Jiang Chengxuan had come to their aid, or the Yunlin immortal sect would have suffered immense losses. With this, our Yunlin immortal sect truly owes you a great favor, Elder Yunqi said with a deep tone. Chapter 1802, A Bountiful Harvest, Breaking Through to the Xuan Immortal Realm 1. Once, Yun Zhuang was a prodigy of the Yunlan immortal clan. Otherwise, he could have reached the later stages of the Xuan immortal realm, and even become one of the clan's high elders. In the past, Yunqi had given Yun Zhuang several pointers on his cultivation, and believed him to be extremely talented. However, Yun Zhuang's ambition was far too great, and he was always involved in conflicts. It's difficult to say whether this was a strength or a weakness. As for cultivators, battling the heavens, the earth, and others is inevitable. Without ambition, it's difficult to reach the end of this arduous and long path because one would lack persistence. However, if ambition grows too large, it will inevitably lead to disastrous consequences, as greed comes with a price, just like the outcome Yun Zhuang now faces. Not far from here lies the true core of the ancient golden immortal cave. I've already sent a message to Yun Tian and Yun Dai. They'll be arriving soon. Young friend, now that you've recovered your strength, just head to this location. I will depart first. Yunqi didn't dwell too much on Yun Zhuang's fate. He only expressed his gratitude to Jiang Chengxuan. For someone like Yunqi, who had lived for countless years, he had seen all kinds of things. After a brief sigh, he simply put it behind him. All right. Having resolved Jiang Chengxuan's crisis, Yunqi didn't linger, waving his hand and transforming into a streak of immortal light, disappearing far away, leaving Jiang Chengxuan with a coordinate. In the desolate, broken world, silence once again fell, leaving only Jiang Chengxuan standing alone. Although he now knew the location of the core of the ancient golden immortal cave, Jiang Chengxuan was not in a hurry. Watching Yunqi depart, he first organized his thoughts. Then he once again manifested his Xuan world, projecting a magnificent and mysterious realm into the void. Inside the Xuan world, Jiang Chengxuan activated the power of the primordial rune once more. The four immortal peaks inscribed with primordial runes shone brightly, emitting dazzling lights and immortal energy. They resonated with each other, triggering a subtle force within the Xuan world, causing the immortal qi in the air to grow thicker, reviving all things and bringing down celestial dew. Under this, Jiang Chengxuan felt his drained immortal energy slowly being replenished. The powerful life force began to be reborn within him, and the vast amounts of energy expended during the battle were recovering at an astonishing speed. This eased Jiang Chengxuan's mind. At this moment, a mechanical prompt suddenly rang out in his mind. It wasn't the usual system notification, so what was it? Ding! Congratulations to the host for achieving the feat of surviving at the hands of a golden immortal cultivator. You have received a system reward, 10 golden immortal grade talismans. Hearing this, Jiang Chengxuan couldn't help but gasp in shock. He was momentarily stunned before a burst of joy surged within him, and his eyes gleamed brightly. 10 golden immortal-grade talismans. This was undoubtedly a huge reward. These golden immortal-grade talismans were not something that golden immortal cultivators could casually create in large numbers. They required enormous effort, long periods of time, and extremely rare materials to forge. Even a golden immortal couldn't afford to squander such resources recklessly. Otherwise, battles between golden immortals would turn into talisman wars, with each golden immortal faction unleashing a barrage of talisman-based attacks. In fact, neither Xianxia nor the bloodthirsty demon immortal had this many talismans. In this regard, Jiang Chengxuan had instantly become richer than a true golden immortal. Boom! Before Jiang Chengxuan could think too much, a muffled sound rang out from the void. Immortal light burst forth, and a stack of talismans, shimmering with immortal radiance, appeared out of nowhere, floating before Jiang Chengxuan. Each talisman exuded a golden immortal-level aura, and the energy within the Xuan world surged violently, clouds roiling and invisible thunder rumbled. Seeing this, Jiang Chengxuan was once again shocked. His heart surged with excitement as he eagerly grasped the 10 talismans in his hands. He could feel the power of wealth and strength. Undoubtedly, these would become his true trump card within the ancient golden immortal cave. With these 10 golden immortal talismans in hand, even if he faced the bloodthirsty demon immortal again, Jiang Chengxuan wouldn't have to strain his own power. He could retreat with ease. Ha ha ha, system, you truly are my confidant. Suppressing his overwhelming joy, Jiang Chengxuan couldn't help but murmur to himself. It seemed that the greatest harvest from this battle wasn't even the 3 golden immortal source items he had exchanged with the bloodthirsty demon immortal. Right, there's also this. Speaking of the system task, Jiang Chengxuan suddenly remembered something. From within his Xuan world, he summoned 2 glowing orbs. This was the beginning of it all, as the system had tasked Jiang Chengxuan with obtaining 10 Xuan immortal-grade treasures. It was for this reason that he had come here, reaping the rewards from the Beast Storage Demon Lord and the 10,000 Ghosts Demon Lord, and eventually drawing the bloodthirsty demon immortal into battle. Buzz. Without hesitation, Jiang Chengxuan used his immortal power to form an invisible hand, gently brushing away the glow that concealed the treasures. As a strange humming sound echoed, the glow of the orbs intensified, revealing their contents. What emerged was a golden humanoid immortal medicine, with the faint shape of an old ginseng. It exuded an immense life force, filling the surroundings with an overwhelming vitality. Chapter 1803. Great Harvest Breaking Through to the Xianxian Realm 2. Without a doubt, this was a priceless medicinal treasure capable of extending one's lifespan. Consuming and refining, it would significantly increase an immortal's longevity, an incredibly rare and valuable item. Tusk, not bad, Jiang Chengxuan remarked, smiling in satisfaction as he stored the herb away. This was something that would certainly prove useful at some point in the future. Without hesitation, he turned his attention to the other light sphere, and his immortal energy extended like threads, slowly unraveling the shrouding celestial light. The last treasure revealed itself, an ethereal, cloud-like round shield that spun and radiated a powerful aura. It was clearly a Xianxian-level defensive artifact. Seeing this, Jiang Chengxuan nodded and stored it as well. It was another valuable find, one that would be hard to find in the outside world. However, Jiang Chengxuan wasn't as concerned about this treasure. He quickly stored it and awaited the system's prompt. Ding! As expected, once the last treasure was stored, a crisp sound echoed in his mind. Congratulations, host. You've completed the achievement of obtaining 10 Xianxian-level treasures. You have received the system reward, fragment of the everlasting sacred scripture. Upon hearing this, Jiang Chengxuan's mind shook as if struck by a thunderbolt, causing his body to tremble. The everlasting sacred scripture fragment. Jiang Chengxuan had never imagined that he would obtain such a treasure from the system. This was a pleasant surprise, one that made him more than happy. The everlasting sacred scripture was one of the most frequently used and mastered divine powers he had. It possessed incredibly powerful sealing and anti-evil abilities. This scripture originally came from a powerful Xianxian's inheritance in the ancient realm. It had been used to seal the ominous dark forces from the forbidden zones of the ancient world. Its significance was extraordinary. Perhaps it had originally been a formidable scripture from the ancient times, but it was incomplete. Later, when Jiang Chengxuan sealed the primordial runes and faced the sinister dark forces, he supplemented part of it, enhancing its power to nearly that of a golden immortal artifact. The clues should have ended there, as Jiang Chengxuan didn't know any further information about the everlasting sacred scripture. However, it seemed that the system had purposefully orchestrated this, or perhaps it was fate. The fragment of the everlasting sacred scripture was now in his hands. Without a second thought, Jiang Chengxuan knew that this would significantly enhance the power of his divine abilities. It would no longer be just a tool for sealing. Now, it would be nearly as powerful as a golden immortal artifact. Ha ha ha, just as I thought, what a great find! Jiang Chengxuan exclaimed in joy, his eyes gleaming with excitement. This was a reward just as significant as the 10 golden immortal talismans. Whoosh! The next moment, accompanied by a humming sound from the void, a burst of strange, brilliant light erupted, filling Jiang Chengxuan's Xuanji with golden radiance and a sacred aura. Soon, a beam of golden light appeared out of nowhere, resembling a golden totem or several golden dragons. The golden light merged into Jiang Chengxuan's mind. At that moment, a divine scripture slowly took form in his sea of consciousness, shimmering like a dazzling starry sky. The power infused into Jiang Chengxuan's mind, interweaving and condensing. The golden light flashed in waves, causing the entire scripture to flicker as if it was coming to life. Eventually, the intricate scripture almost fully materialized, with all the golden light gathering at the end, forming a torrent of energy that seemed to flood into the final parts of the scripture. As the golden energy surged, it seemed to grow like wild grass, gradually completing the scripture, with numerous golden symbols leaping into existence. This caused an incredible transformation, with waves of divine power merging into Jiang Chengxuan's body and Xuanji, making him glow with a translucent, resplendent aura. At the same time, a tremendous aura began to rise, with the golden light enveloping the entire world. The oppressive force grew stronger, pushing Jiang Chengxuan's power from the peak of Xianxia into the early stages of golden immortal. In an instant, the energy within Jiang Chengxuan's Xuanji boiled, and countless light spots appeared, quickly replenishing his previously exhausted strength. Whoosh! It wasn't clear how long had passed, but when Jiang Chengxuan finally opened his eyes again, they sparkled with divine light, and his pupils seemed to reflect a highly intricate and detailed scripture. This made his gaze carry a divine aura. If anyone were to look into his eyes, they would feel an immense sense of awe. Huff! Even when Jiang Chengxuan exhaled a breath, it seemed to carry the sound of chanting scripture, which left him stunned and filled with joy. As he had anticipated, upon receiving the system's fragment, the everlasting sacred scripture had ascended to the level of a golden immortal artifact. After reaching this level, the scripture seemed to merge with Jiang Chengxuan's essence, significantly boosting its power. This not only meant he could now control it more effortlessly, but also that he now radiated a divine strength that could resist certain attacks, even without using the scripture itself. This scripture is now 80% complete. It still has room for further improvement. Jiang Chengxuan murmured to himself, his eyes filled with a passionate fire. The everlasting sacred scripture was not yet fully restored, but he sensed that in the future, he would have the opportunity to perfect it further. Once it was fully restored, it would become an extraordinary weapon for him in battle. At one point, he hadn't considered the possibility of achieving this, but now that he knew the system could provide fragments, Jiang Chengxuan felt certain that he would soon complete this goal. Meanwhile, as Jiang Chengxuan was reaping rewards in the ancient golden immortal cave, something powerful was happening in the ancient realm's wilderness star domain. At the location of the Xuanming immortal domain's secret realm, at the new mountain gate of the loose cultivator alliance, a sudden, overwhelming force erupted, shaking the heavens and earth. Outside a certain immortal peak, countless thunderbolts cracked the sky open, and a shocking 9-colored lightning bolt shot upward, piercing the heavens. The terrifying aura immediately stirred the space within a 100-mile radius, summoning an invisible storm. Immense celestial light poured into the sky, and the oppressive pressure spread across the land, making everything tremble in fear. All the disciples and elders within the loose cultivator alliance felt the overwhelming aura and rushed outside, staring at the dazzling lightning, which looked like a massive, violent sun covering everything. Hiss, that's Elder Shen's cave, one of them gasped. Could something have happened? What a terrifying force, another murmured. In that instant, many of the disciples and elders inhaled sharply, deeply shocked by the scene. But it wasn't just them. Even the various forces within the secret realm noticed the incredible force that caused the thunderbolts to strike the sky, unleashing world-destroying pressure. What's going on? Many immortals were puzzled. Even those who had come to the ancient realm had never faced such a powerful force. It's Elder Shen. She's breaking through to the Xianxian realm. She really did it, someone speculated. The figure who spoke was none other than Yuan Han, who had just broken through to the heavenly immortal realm and was truly beginning to establish his presence in the ancient realm's cultivation world. This was a significant achievement, one that had filled him with joy and a sense of accomplishment, as he felt he had reached the pinnacle. But when he saw Shen Ruyan, much younger than him, about to break through to the Xianxian realm, he couldn't help but feel a mixture of awe and admiration. Chapter 1804, The Alliance's Affairs, Delving into the Core, Part 1. When he first met Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, his cultivation was still above theirs. However, due to an internal injury, he fell into a disadvantage during his battle with Jiang Chengxuan, which led him to follow Jiang Chengxuan to the loose cultivators' alliance. Now Jiang Chengxuan no longer needs any introduction. His cultivation had already reached an unimaginable level. Even Shen Ruyan was about to surpass him by a large realm, which was quite a surprising turn of events. However, after following Jiang Chengxuan for such a long time, Yuan Han, the immortal, had witnessed many such incidents, and his capacity for acceptance had grown much stronger over time. Jiang Chengxuan had constantly been expanding his horizons, even bringing them to the mysterious ancient world, a place beyond imagination. Rumble. Amidst the awe of tens of thousands, the thunderbolt that shot into the sky became increasingly violent. The lightning devoured an area of hundreds of miles, gradually revealing the phantom of a mystical world. In the ever-flashing and surging sea of lightning, towering immortal peaks rose, mountains, rivers, the sun, and the moon revolved endlessly. Above the sky, another layer of celestial fabric appeared, with stars scattered like a chessboard, an incredibly profound sight. As this realm emerged, the pressure in the air grew even heavier, making everyone present feel a sense of suffocation. This was the realm of Shen Ruyan, and after absorbing the shattered pieces of Jiang Chengxuan's realm, this critical step was completed naturally. At this point, it was almost certain that Shen Ruyan's breakthrough had succeeded. The only question remaining was how much time it would take for her to complete it. That's their place. Someone is breaking through to the immortal realm, another immortal. Who exactly are these people? Naturally, this phenomenon caught the attention of the local immortal sects in the arid star immortal domain. They quickly realized that someone was about to break through to the immortal realm, sparking a flurry of discussions filled with uncertainty. For the immortals of the arid star immortal domain, Jiang Chengxuan and the others, identities were a profound mystery, hard to fathom. Previously, only Jiang Chengxuan possessed an unfathomable cultivation, while the rest of them were quite uneven in strength. But now, apart from Jiang Chengxuan, another person was about to break through to the immortal realm, which raised their power to a whole new level. Even in a place like the ancient world, a faction with two immortal realm cultivators would be strong enough to dominate a region. I hope they will coexist peacefully with us. Some powers felt uneasy, anxious at the thought that this might be a hidden threat. However, due to Jiang Chengxuan's terrifying strength, they didn't dare take any rash actions, fearing retaliation. Unless the strongest sect in the arid star domain, the Teibai Immortal sect, took the lead, they would not act. At this moment, the Teibai Xuanjun, the head of the Teibai Immortal sect, also felt the disturbance caused by Shen Ruyan's breakthrough. Standing on the majestic mountain gate of the Teibai Immortal sect, with white brows furrowed, he looked into the distance where the mystical world was forming, silently observing. In fact, he, too, regarded Jiang Chengxuan and the others as a potential threat, feeling that if they were left to grow unchecked, the situation in the future could become uncontrollable. However, openly antagonizing Jiang Chengxuan and going into a life-and-death struggle wasn't realistic. After all, he was already in his twilight years, no longer possessing the youthful ambition he once had. He didn't want to make any earth-shattering moves in his old age. Moreover, when Shen Ruyan returned recently, he seemed to have seen another powerful force's cultivator escorting her, indicating that there might be a stronger faction in the ancient world with connections to Jiang Chengxuan and the others. This gave Teibai Chuanjun another reason not to take action. Thus, watching the violent and dazzling mystical world gradually solidify, he turned away without further observation. With this, Shen Ruyan's final breakthrough to the immortal realm was secured, and there were no more surprises to be had. At some point, after an unknown amount of time passed, the mystical world in the sky fully manifested, enveloping an area of hundreds of miles. A strange humming sound resonated through the air as vast immortal power swept through the void, creating waves. At that moment, everyone knew that another immortal cultivator had descended upon the arid star domain. Congratulations, Elder Shen, for breaking through. You've reached the pinnacle of the immortal path. Congratulations, Elder Shen, for breaking through. You've reached the pinnacle of the immortal path. Congratulations, Elder Shen, for breaking through. You've reached the pinnacle of the immortal path. Looking at Shen Ruyan's figure, which was too dazzling to look at directly, as she bore the mystical world upon her, the entire loose cultivators alliance erupted in cheers, shaking the skies. Countless disciples and followers were filled with excitement and joy, all bowing and paying their respects. Shen Ruyan's breakthrough meant that they would have another powerful backing in the future, and how could they not be overjoyed? I've disturbed you all. From today, the blessed lands within the sect will be open to all disciples for 10 years, and all disciples' treatment will be doubled. With a cold expression, Shen Ruyan spoke without much emotion, as if a goddess. However, to share the joy of her breakthrough, she issued an order for everyone to celebrate together. This made the disciples and followers even more excited, and once again, the air was filled with thunderous congratulations and a festive atmosphere. Afterward, the loose cultivators, alliance, as per tradition, held a grand immortal ceremony for Shen Ruyan's breakthrough, and invited the various forces from the Xuanming immortal domain and arid star domain to attend. That day, the entire secret realm was packed with immortals from all sides. Many immortal sects who had received gifts from Jiang Chengxuan took the opportunity to return the favor and familiarize themselves with the other factions. Chapter 1805. The Matters of the Alliance delving into the core. Even the Teibai immortal sect sent elders. Although they feared the power of the area, they couldn't just avoid it. Instead, they decided to take a more generous approach and actively foster deep friendships with the various immortal sects of the Xianxia immortal domain. After all, the entire ancient realm was vast, and any given territory was insignificant. It was possible that Jiang Chengxuan and his group's goal wasn't to dominate the area of the Huangsu territory. Naturally, Shen Ruyan welcomed this and showcased her newly attained Xianxian realm strength and the foundation of the Wandering Cultivator Alliance at the Grand Ceremony. This was the true purpose of holding the Xianxian Grand Ceremony, to intimidate others and display their strength, solidifying the new position of the Wandering Cultivator Alliance. It was on this day that Yun Feng and his parents brought their team from the Yunlin Immortal sect, along with many precious immortal treasures and materials. This astonished the forces of the Huangsu territory, who were only then realizing the depth of Jiang Chengxuan's connections. The Yunlin Immortal sect was a powerful ancient force at the Golden Immortal level. Immediately, the immortals from the Huangsu territory began to reassess the weight of the Wandering Cultivator Alliance, and even Teibai Elder, after receiving the news, muttered to himself that it was no surprise. He was uncertain whether he should feel relieved or heavy-hearted, as his guess had been correct. Jiang Chengxuan indeed had ties with a powerful force. In this case, his decision not to take action when Shen Ruyan broke through to the Xianxian realm was undoubtedly the right one. If the Yunlin Immortal sect were to seek revenge, even as a late-stage Xianxian, he would be helpless against them. Huangsu territory was a remote place, and historically, no golden immortals had ever appeared there. One could only imagine the overwhelming power the Yunlin Immortal sect would wield. This made Jiang Chengxuan and his group even more unfathomable. If they ever decided to rise up in rebellion with the strength of the Huangsu territory, it would be difficult to resist. Teibai Elder felt a headache coming on. After deep contemplation, he sighed and left the sect's great hall, heading toward the Wandering Cultivator Alliance, where the Xianxian Grand Ceremony was being held. Ancient Golden Immortal Cave Mansion. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan was still unaware of the events happening within the Wandering Cultivator Alliance. He had originally prepared some treasures that could help Shen Ruyan with her breakthrough to the Xianxian realm, but they were no longer needed. This, however, wasn't a matter of regret. At this moment, after completing the repairs, Jiang Chengxuan followed the coordinates given by Yunxi Lao Ren and made his way to the core of the ancient golden immortal cave mansion. Taoist Jiang, you've arrived. A voice suddenly came from behind as Jiang Chengxuan was walking through the air. He turned to find Yun Tian and Yun Dai, who had evidently come following the information from Yunxi Lao Ren and were heading toward the core area. They coincidentally ran into Jiang Chengxuan along the way. Greetings, both of you. I trust all is well. Have you made any gains? Jiang Chengxuan stopped and, waiting for them to catch up, greeted them warmly. Hearing this, Yun Tian and Yun Dai smiled and shared the events that had unfolded since their separation. Considering Taoist Jiang's strength, your gains must be greater than ours. As they spoke, the three of them continued to head toward their target, floating through the air. Curious about Yun Tian and Yun Dai's experiences, Jiang Chengxuan smiled and, without hiding anything, recounted his encounter with the Xianxia demon immortal. Immediately, both Yun Tian and Yun Dai froze, drawing in a sharp breath. They hadn't known that Jiang Chengxuan had encountered such a dangerous situation. However, once they heard how Jiang Chengxuan had suppressed the BEAST Chinese letter and fought with the Xianxia demon immortal, their expressions shifted dramatically. Although Jiang Chengxuan had only briefly mentioned using talismans to maneuver around the Xianxia demon immortal until Yunxi Lao Ren arrived to assist, Yun Tian and Yun Dai, both late-stage Xuanxians who had also used Yunxi Lao Ren's talisman powers, would not so easily accept Jiang Chengxuan's version of the story. The gap between golden immortals and Xuanxians was something they, with their countless years of experience, understood all too well. It was as wide as the heavens, nearly insurmountable. They knew that if they encountered the Xianxia demon immortal, the other party could suppress them with one hand, and they would have no means of resistance. No matter how many golden immortal talismans they had, they could not withstand the immense consumption, nor could they resist the power and blockade of a golden immortal. However, Jiang Chengxuan, as a late-stage Xuanxian, had been able to hold out until Yunxi Lao Ren came to his aid without suffering any major injury. This was nothing short of a miracle. The more Yun Tian and Yun Dai thought about it, the more astonished and awed they became. They were both shocked and horrified. If they had known that Jiang Chengxuan had not only withstood the full force of a golden immortal, but had also retaliated, injuring the Xianxia demon immortal, they would have been even more astonished, probably stunned into silence, and undoubtedly calling him a freak of nature in their hearts. After that, without saying much more, the three continued on their journey. With their speed, the core area of the ancient golden immortal cave mansion gradually appeared before them. It was a universe hidden within the ancient golden immortal cave mansion, as deep and dark as void itself. Countless stars were scattered across it, their light shimmering and flowing like a river of light. This was a true universe, not some illusion, crafted with the techniques of the ancient golden immortal. It was a masterpiece, truly breathtaking. Once they stepped into this area, Jiang Chengxuan and his companions immediately felt an overwhelming aura of dignity emanating from it, a grandeur and ancient feeling that made them sure of the reality of this universe. This is the true appearance of the ancient golden immortal cave mansion. Incredible! Yun Tian and Yun Dai couldn't help but exclaim in awe. Even their Yunlin immortal sect couldn't accomplish such a feat. I sense a very powerful aura changing deep inside. Jiang Chengxuan nodded, his expression growing solemn as he whispered. Oh, such a thing. That must mean some treasure is about to be born. We should hurry up and head there, Yun Tian and Yun Dai said, their expressions serious. With their perception, they couldn't sense the changes as sharply as Jiang Chengxuan, but since he said so, they knew it was true. Let's go. The next moment, all three of them unleashed their immortal energy, and their immortal light surged, transforming into three brilliant meteors as they flew toward the depths of this universe, like streaking stars. Along the way, they could feel the vastness of this small universe. There seemed to be some hidden rules that made them feel a sense of disorientation. As they passed some stars, sudden formations of restrictive powers erupted, sending beams of heavenly light toward them. These obstacles slowed them down, but with their late-stage Xuanxian power, they were able to withstand these forces with relative ease. Moreover, the coordinates given by Yunxi Lao Ren proved invaluable, pointing the way within the vast universe. Boom! With their powerful immortal energies, Jiang Chengxuan and the others struck out, shattering the incoming heavenly light and stars, creating explosions and chaotic surges. As they gradually grew accustomed to the dangers of this universe, they quickened their pace again, pushing forward with relentless determination, overcoming each obstacle in their way and drawing closer to the heart of the ancient golden immortal cave mansion. And as they delved deeper, Yun Tian and Yun Dai also began to sense the changes Jiang Chengxuan had mentioned. Deep within this universe, there seemed to be a rising energy, surging as if manipulating everything, possibly some sort of awareness or consciousness left by the ancient golden immortal. Chapter 1806, Golden Immortal Insights, Suggestions for a Duel. The core of the ancient golden immortal's cave lies in an immensely vast and perilous universe. Jiang Chengxuan, Yun Tian, and Yun Dai joined forces as they broke through countless obstacles, drawing closer to the center. In this core universe, every barrier or ray of celestial light is at the level of a mystical immortal, innumerable in number, and even Jiang Chengxuan's group must remain constantly cautious. This is why sects like Yun Lan sect and Tian Jian sect chose to send only their grand elders of the mystical immortal realm, as they had already predicted that ordinary mystical immortals would have great difficulty in the ancient golden immortal cave. Survival here itself is a significant challenge. Bringing more people would only result in chaos, easily destroyed and left with no trace of their deaths. Moreover, the most precious treasures in the ancient golden immortal cave are of utmost importance. What an ordinary mystical immortal might obtain is not even a target for the golden immortals like Yunxi, and they would not waste much energy on it. Boom! In a brief moment, Jiang Chengxuan's group passed through another nebula, their traces of immortal power burning behind them, filling the air with a domineering aura. We're almost there. I can sense the presence of others. Yun Tian Elder's eyes narrowed, and he exhaled a deep breath. Upon hearing this, Jiang Chengxuan and Yun Dai nodded. The vast immortal realm behind them surged with energy, but no attacks were made. Within this world, Jiang Chengxuan could feel the lingering presence of other immortal sect members, indicating that the grand elders of other sects were gradually converging in this universe. They had reached the true end of the ancient golden immortal cave. If there were any truly precious treasures in this cave, they would surely be here. Just ahead. After a brief moment, the trio crossed the final distance and arrived at a location very close to the coordinates given by Yunxi. Before them appeared a mysterious nebula, emitting a faint, ethereal celestial glow. It looked like a splendid mist spreading across the vast, void universe. Within it, countless stars flickered in and out of sight, rising and falling while emitting a brilliant radiance, exuding an ancient and unsettling aura. At the sight of this, Jiang Chengxuan, Yun Tian, and Yun Dai couldn't help but feel their hearts stir, sensing a faint pressure. Although this nebula blocked their probing, it emitted an overwhelming pressure. The earlier power shift that Jiang Chengxuan had sensed also emanated from here, traveling from the distant edges of the universe. They've entered here. Jiang Chengxuan and his companions exchanged glances. Fortunately, they could no longer sense the presence of the other immortal sect members, and this information brought them some comfort. Then let's go. Jiang Chengxuan was the first to speak. Hearing this, Yun Tian and Yun Dai both showed determined expressions and nodded. Without further hesitation, the three of them manifested their immortal realm and formed a protective barrier around themselves, their immortal power swirling. With a single step, they disappeared into the nebula. The moment they stepped inside, Jiang Chengxuan felt an overwhelming force enveloping them from all sides, as though they had entered a mysterious sea. At the same time, he saw light flare before him, countless colors filling his vision. The surrounding space began to twist, and even time seemed to change, stretching out endlessly. The moment was neither long nor short, and Jiang Chengxuan felt himself sinking deeper into the sea until, at some point, a strange humming sound reverberated. The endless stream of light dissipated, and before Jiang Chengxuan's eyes appeared a more brilliant yet searing deep blue void. Everywhere his gaze landed, there was only a deeper, dimmer glow, with galaxies flowing across the horizon, creating a series of stunning sights. The stars flickered, their pure and ethereal beauty unfolding before him. This scene left Jiang Chengxuan mesmerized. The atmosphere here was far more peaceful, tranquil, and distant than the mysterious and oppressive air of the outside world, as if it were the moment of creation in the ancient past when everything first came into being. Hum. Along with the hum, Yun Tian and Yun Dai's figures appeared behind him, as if rising from the water, materializing out of thin air. At the moment they appeared, they were first startled, then immediately captivated by the profound sight around them, standing frozen in place with eyes gleaming. This was a man-made holy land, and only those who had reached the peak of cultivation could understand its beauty. It was a true masterpiece, a product of heaven's design. Truly magnificent, this is the real foundation. Yun Tian Elder couldn't help but whisper in amazement. As a grand elder of a golden immortal level power, he understood that the foundation of these ancient golden immortals far surpassed that of their current counterparts. From just this one scene, it was clear that the power of the ancient golden immortals was far superior, even compared to their own ancestors and figures like the wild-blood demon immortal. "Let's go, Yunzu is waiting for us." At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan interrupted their admiration and pointed in a direction. Upon entering this realm, he could clearly feel the presence of Yunxi and the others. Not only Yunxi, but also Tian Giant Elder, Wild-Blood Demon Immortal, and Yuzing Daxian had all arrived. Upon hearing this, Yun Tian and Yun Dai immediately snapped to attention, looking in the direction Jiang Chengxuan had indicated. There, in that direction, was a star that shone more brightly than any other, radiating a dazzling aurora. Chapter 1807, Golden Immortal Insights, Suggestions for a Dual Part 2. The star emitted an aura of grandeur and ancientness, proclaiming it as the true core of this realm, the most crucial item within the entire ancient golden immortal cave. In an instant, a feeling of reverence arose within the hearts of the three. Their auras surged, transforming into beams of immortal light that pierced through the dark void. Soon, the dazzling star before them enlarged at a visible speed. It appeared even more ethereal, as if a more refined nebula was forming, constantly shifting its shape, obscured and revealed in turns. Around the deep space, the various immortal sect forces had indeed gathered, waiting solemnly. The arrival of Jiang Chengxuan and his companions undoubtedly attracted the attention of others. Almost immediately, Jiang Chengxuan felt a murderous intent closing in on him. He glanced over, and once again, it was the trio of Wild-Blood Demon Immortal and Beast Kang Demon Venerable, along with some other familiar faces. Naturally, Jiang Chengxuan had long since gotten used to their hostility. Under their resentful gazes, he chose to ignore them, infuriating the Wild-Blood Demon Immortal and others to the point of gritting their teeth in anger. But just as Jiang Chengxuan shifted his gaze, he also felt a cold and malicious stare from another direction. Turning to look, he saw the team from the Yuing Immortal sect. The Grand Elder of Yuing Immortal sect, who had once tried to betray his allies and barely escaped death at Jiang Chengxuan's hands, was now glaring at him with intense hatred. In front of him stood Yuzing Daxian, dressed in dark green and emanating a chilling presence. His eyes flickered with a strange, almost mocking light as he looked at Jiang Chengxuan. "They've arrived." At this moment, Yunxi also seemed to sense something and spoke in a low voice, breaking the eerie silence. "Ancestor, we've kept you waiting." "Yunzu." Yun Tian and Yun Dai immediately responded, joining Jiang Chengxuan as they landed behind Yunxi, blocking the hostile intentions from the Wild-Blood Demon Immortal and Yuzing Daxian. The four great golden immortal forces had finally reunited. The atmosphere in the deep space grew tense, as if a pin drop could be heard. It was reminiscent of the first time they had arrived at the ancient golden immortal cave, where everyone stood on edge before the entrance, swords drawn and ready. But now, the tension in the air seemed even more palpable, for the elusive star before them kept shifting and emitting a deadly attraction. Undoubtedly, this was the most precious treasure within the ancient golden immortal cave. Though its true form was still unknown, its presence alone made the hearts of the four golden immortals burn with desire, their fighting spirit unrestrained. At this point, Jiang Chengxuan couldn't help but assess the surrounding forces. Compared to when they first arrived, the four great golden immortal forces had suffered some losses. The Wild-Blood sect, needless to say, had been severely weakened, with 3 of their demon venerables battered and injured by Jiang Chengxuan. Even Wild-Blood Demon Immortal himself was not in perfect condition. Yuing Immortal sect had also suffered, with one of their grand elders killed by Jiang Chengxuan, leaving only 3 members remaining. The Yun Lan sect was similar, with Yun Zhuang having lost combat strength due to betrayal, now down 1 member. Even the Tian Giant Immortal sect, who had only met Jiang Chengxuan once in the ancient golden immortal cave, had seen their three grand elders seriously wounded, their energy dimmed. Clearly, all four forces had faced unexpected dangers within the cave. Looking at this, it became apparent that none of the four great golden immortal forces had emerged from the ancient golden immortal cave unscathed. This was enough to demonstrate how dangerous this place truly was. Ancestor, what exactly is this place? At this moment, Yun Tian subtly asked Yunxi, hoping to learn more before the upcoming battle. Yunxi remained silent, transmitting to Jiang Chengxuan and the others. This core area of the cave is where the owner of the cave cultivated. The star before us that keeps shifting. I suspect it might be the ancient golden immortal's insights from 1,000,000 years of cultivation. This revelation revealed the true nature of the star and shook Jiang Chengxuan and the others to their core. They now understood why it was placed in the very heart of the cave. The ancient golden immortal's 1,000,000 years of cultivation insights were equivalent to his complete legacy. If anyone could acquire them, they would undoubtedly reach the next realm. Even golden immortals would benefit immensely from such a treasure. These insights in cultivation would usually not remain behind, or would only leave a small trace. They wouldn't form a star of this magnitude. Whether it was due to some mysterious law of the ancient golden immortal cave, or some method of the golden immortal himself, this star had taken shape. Even Jiang Chengxuan, upon learning that this was the ancient golden immortal's cultivation insights, couldn't help but be filled with excitement. For him, who was preparing to break through to golden immortal, this treasure was priceless. Insights were the most mysterious and difficult part of a cultivator's breakthrough. Many talented individuals were trapped by these bottlenecks, making it a divide between genius and ordinary people. Only by obtaining these legacies could a cultivator bypass this barrier the fastest, saving countless years of breakthrough time. Not to mention the insights of a golden immortal. If Jiang Chengxuan could acquire this treasure, his chances of breaking through to golden immortal would increase dramatically, and the time required for the breakthrough would be reduced by tens of thousands of years. However, despite everyone's desire for the treasure, no one knew how to act immediately. There was a layer of restriction on the insights, and no one knew what would happen if they touched it. As a result, the four golden immortal forces had gathered here but had yet to take action, hesitant to fight for the treasure. Everyone, this can't go on forever. We can't just wait for it to appear on its own, can we? After a deep silence, Ewing Daxian, whose personality was erratic, could no longer hold back and suddenly spoke, breaking the stillness. HMPH, easy for you to say how precious this treasure is. If it's damaged, wouldn't it all be for nothing? Upon hearing this, Wildblood Demon Immortal finally paused his hostility toward Jiang Chengxuan, snorting coldly and voicing the concern that everyone shared. In response, Ewing Daxian chuckled wickedly, his eyes shifting. He said, "I'm quite familiar with these kinds of legacy treasures. Why not let me handle it? I'll break the restriction, and then we can each rely on our own abilities. How about that?" It was rumored in the ancient world that he had once obtained the legacy of an ancient evil cultivator, which gave his words some credibility. However, at this moment, even if he truly had a method to break the restriction, who would trust him to handle the ancient golden immortal's insights? Who would let him touch the treasure, given his notorious reputation? Almost immediately, Yunxi rebutted. "Hey, you sly fox, who would trust you? Don't hold on to such foolish hopes." Even the usually solemn Tian, giant elder, agreed. Indeed. Apparently, Ewing Daxian had anticipated this reaction. He laughed wickedly, undeterred by the rejection. He spread his hands in helplessness and said, "Then are we really going to just sit here and wait? As long as this treasure doesn't reveal itself, we won't leave." His words were not without merit. Although the restriction on the treasure kept changing, there was a sense that it would soon break. But how long would that take? No one knew. This caused Yunxi and the others to furrow their brows, falling into deep thought. Perhaps we should hold an open and fair duel here, with the four of us as judges. Whoever breaks the oath, the other three will join forces to kill them. Whoever wins the duel will take half of the treasure. At this moment, Ewing Daxian suggested again, offering a solution. This suggestion seemed more feasible, making the other three golden immortals pause and consider. If there were a way to divide the treasure without damaging it, a fair duel might indeed be one of the best options. Moreover, only half of the treasure would be awarded to the winner, which was something that could be accepted by the others. Chapter 1808. The Rules of the Duel. Chaos Begins. Part 1. Clearly, after all the hardships they had endured to reach the core of this ancient golden immortal secret realm, standing before treasures condensed from countless millennia of golden immortal enlightenment, no one was willing to leave empty-handed. Thus, the proposal by Grand Immortal Ewing, that the victor would only take half the treasure, while the other half would be divided among the remaining three, was clearly a concession to these sentiments. If the winner were to claim all the spoils, then there would be no point in holding this duel, as the other three parties would never agree to such terms. In this, Jiang Chengxuan sensed the hidden deliberation behind Grand Immortal Ewing's words. It seemed this proposal had been his true aim all along, while the earlier suggestions were mere distractions to make the final offer more acceptable. To Jiang Chengxuan, the suggestion seemed reasonable. It would help avoid needless chaos and conflict. However, whether the proposal would be adopted was not up to him. That would depend on the other three golden immortal powerhouses. Silence fell over the heavens and earth. For once, Grand Immortal Ewing was in no rush, wearing a fake smile as he waited for the others' responses. This proposal, this old man thinks it has some merit. After a brief pause, it was the always decisive and domineering Heavenly Sword Elder who spoke first, his tone cold, but with clear approval. Upon hearing this, both the Bloodfiend Immortal and Elder Yunchi turned to glance at one another, dangerous intent flickering in their eyes. Yet, they too finally spoke. If no one backs out halfway, then this suggestion is acceptable. I agree. HMPH, if it's a fight you want, then a fight you'll get. Would I ever cower? Clearly, to end this potentially endless deadlock, both of them chose to accept the duel as a means of resolving ownership of the treasure. Jai Jai Jai. Seeing this, Grand Immortal Ewing let out a more unrestrained laugh, seemingly proud that his ingenious proposal had been accepted. Then, perhaps to ease any lingering concerns, he added, "Everyone present here has a name and reputation. If anyone dares go back on their word or break the rules, Jai Jai, then the other three factions shall simply destroy them." His words carried boundless killing intent, chilling the very air. Even Jiang Chengxuan and the others felt a shiver run down their spines, as if a snake's tongue had brushed their skin. Indeed, since we've all agreed, there shall be no going back. Anyone who breaks their promise will be an enemy of my Heavenly Sword Immortal sect. The Heavenly Sword Elder's brows slanted sharply, his tone firm as iron, making the air even more frigid. Jiang Chengxuan understood that this marked the formal beginning of the duel, each party now making their vows. Though such vows were mostly verbal agreements, with the cultivation level of golden immortals, speaking them aloud would still have subtle repercussions in the unseen realms. Very well, I shall accompany you. Anyone who breaks their word shall be treated as an enemy of my Yunlin immortal sect. Elder Yunchi spoke in a booming voice, his eyes like lightning, radiating awe across the realm. Naturally, the Bloodfiend Immortal wouldn't be left behind. He roared in response. My Bloodfiend sect values loyalty above all. Anyone who breaks their word shall be our mortal enemy. No matter who wins or loses in this duel, I will have no complaint. And just like that, this unexpected duel was settled. No one present had expected things to unfold in this manner. For a moment, Jiang Chengxuan and Yun Tianyun Dai looked at each other in surprise, seeing hesitation and confusion mirrored in one another's eyes. They weren't alone. Disciples of the Heavenly Sword sect, Beast-Hiding Demon Lord's faction, and Grand Immortal Ewing sect were equally baffled. But since the founding elders of each sect had already made their decisions, no one else had any right to object. If there was to be a fight, they had no choice but to participate. In truth, even without this duel, a battle would have erupted as soon as the treasure emerged. Everyone had already prepared for this possibility. Now, with the duel system in place, they would avoid an all-out melee. In fact, for cultivators at the profound immortal level, this might be a blessing. At least they wouldn't have to worry about dying inexplicably in the crossfire between golden immortals. All right then, since everyone has agreed, let's hear the rules of this duel. Seeing that everyone had made their vows, the Heavenly Sword Elder spoke up again. Grand Immortal Ewing's expression turned solemn. He retracted his smile and said with a serious tone, "As for the rules, the simpler the better. Anyone present who believes they are capable may challenge any other person to a duel. The victor earns 1 point. The challenged party may decline, but it will count as a loss. When no more battles can be fought, the side with the most points shall be declared the winner." It was indeed a simple set of rules. Anyone strong enough could freely challenge others, fighting until exhaustion or defeat. The more opponents one defeated before falling, the more points one's faction would earn. Yet for all its simplicity, this rule made the entire match highly unpredictable. Even golden immortal powerhouses couldn't foresee how it would end. Because clearly, this duel would test the foundations of each immortal sect. The deciding factor would be how many victories their elders could earn. As Grand Immortal Ewing's words fell, silence once again blanketed the scene. Chapter 1809, Competition Rules Chaos Unleashed Part 2. Elder Yunqi and the others all frowned in contemplation, while Elder Tianjian sharply questioned, "Are we golden immortals just supposed to stand by and watch?" Clearly, with his domineering personality, he was eager to take part personally and test himself against the other immortals. If all of you wish to act, naturally it is permitted, but bullying the juniors, now that would be unjust, wouldn't it? In response, the Dreadwalker immortal smiled, playing the part of a benevolent elder. HMPH, I certainly wouldn't stoop so low as to strike the younger generation. But in my view, if we golden immortals clash, the victor should earn 5 points. What say you? Elder Tianjian furrowed his brows as he spoke, putting forth a new suggestion. This would give the golden immortals greater influence over the outcome and allow them to have a decisive impact. Such an adjustment seemed far more fitting for someone like him, who was already itching to fight. This sovereign agrees. Why not have us suppress our cultivation to the profound immortal level and challenge others under the same conditions? That would be better. Leaving the outcome entirely to the juniors is far too frivolous. Unexpectedly, the Bloodfiend Demon Immortal chimed in with support, his eyes gleaming sharply as he added a twist to the rules, all the while casting a sideways glance toward Jiang Chengxuan. There was no question. In this entire competition, the person he most feared was Jiang Chengxuan. He had personally tasted the youth's power, so potent that even he, a golden immortal, had to face him with full force. It was needless to say what would happen to others like the beast-hidden demon venerable under Jiang's hand. They'd likely fare no better. If he couldn't intervene personally, the side with the highest chance of winning was undoubtedly the Cloudmist Immortal sect. As the arch-rival of the Cloudmist, how could he possibly allow that? Very well, since the two of you are in agreement, so be it. Elder Yun, what's your opinion? Facing pressure from both sides, the Dreadwalker Immortal didn't particularly mind the change. His main concern was ending the stalemate. The exact rules didn't matter so long as they were fair. As Elder Tianjian and the Bloodfiend Immortal stared him down, Elder Yunqi considered their proposal and eventually nodded in agreement. No matter what their views aligned, so long as it was fair, then let there be war. What's more, he knew full well that they held an ace up their sleeve, Jiang Chengxuan. Given Jiang's prior feats, even if the Bloodfiend Immortal suppressed his realm to the profound immortal stage and tried to trouble him, the outcome would still be uncertain. And so, with a few simple words, the terms were set. The four factions stood poised in the dark void, battle aura clashing, lightning nearly bursting forth from the tension. With the rules finalized, the elders of each sect became the center of attention. All were on high alert, their fighting spirit flaring as they scouted out potential opponents with unwavering gazes. At Jiang Chengxuan's side, Cloudsky and Cloudearth's auras shifted dramatically, fierce and violent, their eyes burning with fire. To these grand elders, whose devotion to their sect outweighed life itself, nothing stirred the blood more than a righteous sect-wide duel. Even Jiang Chengxuan couldn't help being affected by the atmosphere. Though merely a guest summoned by Elder Yunqi, he wouldn't hold back when it came time to contribute. After all, should they earn the Golden Immortal's enlightenment treasure in the end, he trusted Elder Yunqi's character to allocate rewards fairly. Jiang was confident he'd get his share. No more idle chatter, let it begin. Those who wish to battle, choose your opponents, KKK. The tense silence was broken by the Dreadwalker Immortal, whose sinister laughter echoed like a blade across the heavens. I am Darkvoid Venerable of the Dreadwalker sect. I would like to challenge you. Almost as if on cue, a figure stepped forward from the Dreadwalker Immortal sect. Tall and lanky, clad in flowing green robes, the man had the air of a strange, otherworldly being. His chosen target, none other than Cloudsky, standing beside Jiang Chengxuan. I am Proud Sword Venerable of the Heavenly Sword sect. I seek a bout with Beast-Hidden Demon Venerable. HMPH, I Cloudearth of the Cloudmist sect, challenge the Dreadwalker sect. I am Wild Blade, demon venerable of the Bloodfiend sect. Let us see whether your sword is sharper than my blade. That first declaration seemed to ignite a chain reaction. Voices rang out in quick succession from all factions, each one issuing or accepting a challenge without hesitation. In a flash, 4 duels were locked in for the first round. Darkvoid Venerable versus Cloudsky. Proud Sword Venerable versus Beast Hidden Demon Venerable. Cloud Earth versus a Dreadwalker sect member. Wild Blade Demon Venerable versus a Heavenly Sword sect member. None declined the fights. Each immediately flared their immortal energy and launched into the sky like shooting stars, seeking out their opponents. Before the watching crowd, the combatants summoned their inner realms almost simultaneously. WMM, WMM, WMM. With strange vibrations and surging power, energy storms erupted as phantom realms bloomed into existence, brilliant, ominous, demonic, or radiant, shrouding the battlefield in chaos and obscuring the skies. Careful now. Take this. My apologies. In mere instants the battles ignited. Each side clashed with full force, no one holding back, each unleashing their most powerful techniques. The roaring tides of immortal power shook the heavens, radiant light surging into the void like a descending galaxy, vast and magnificent. Meanwhile, Jiang Chengxuan remained standing alone, calmly watching the unfolding chaos in the void. His attention was focused on Cloudsky and Cloud Earth's battles. Facing Cloudsky was a Dreadwalker venerable Jiang had never seen before, Darkvoid. But the man's technique was unmistakably part of the same Dreadwalker arts Jiang had faced before. In an instant, boundless purple light surged behind Cloudsky, condensing into a massive purple moon. He summoned his celestial treasure, a mighty violet seal, and clad himself in moonlight armor. The fierce lunar radiance surged forth like a tidal wave, tearing swathes through the darkness. Yet Darkvoid Venerable was no slouch. Prepared in advance, he too summoned his immortal treasure. In a blink, his personal realm, a pitch-black abyss, swallowed heaven and earth, plunging the world into night. Just like the Dreadwalker arts Jiang had fought before, Darkvoid's figure flickered and disappeared into the shadows, completely vanishing without a trace. Boom! Cloudsky's opening strike missed, and in the next heartbeat, Darkvoid reappeared behind him, thrusting a jet-black trident straight at Cloudsky's back. It all happened in mere breaths. Even Jiang Chengxuan had only defeated this kind of stealth by relying on intricate calculations. Detecting the Dreadwalker techniques wasn't easy. WOMM. Fortunately, at that critical moment, the moonlight armor on Cloudsky shone brightly. As the deadly strike was about to land, the armor's rune flared and unleashed an immense force. A full moon-like shield materialized, enveloping Cloudsky and neutralizing the blow just in time. Still, the close call sent a chill through Cloudsky's heart. He had truly felt death brush past him. Chapter 1810. 4 Fierce Battles, the Results of War 1. Though the Yuang immortal sect was notorious even in the ancient realm, this was Elder Yunqian's first time facing them in battle. When the art of Yuang was unleashed, its eerie speed and concealment startled even him. Despite being of equal cultivation, he couldn't sense the slightest trace of his opponent's aura during the exchange. Jai, try my great Yuang technique. Amidst this, the gloomy voice of Yuan Xianzun rang out. Though his ambush had been unexpectedly blocked by Elder Yunqian, it did not halt his frenzied assault. In the blink of an eye, before Elder Yunqian could react, his distorted dark domain had already spread across the battlefield. With a flicker, Yuan reappeared behind Yunqian, launching a devastating strike from the darkness. Purple Moon Seal Unleash. Yet as a grand elder of Yunlin immortal sect, how could Elder Yunqian allow his opponent to run wild? Though he could not sense his foe's presence, he unhesitatingly activated the power of the Purple Moon Seal in his hand the moment he detected the incoming strike. At nearly the same moment that Yuan Xianzun emerged and attacked, the seal expanded rapidly like a growing mountain, forming a massive glazed platform that descended with crushing force over Elder Yunqian's location. This scene stunned the spectators. No one had expected Elder Yunqian to act so decisively. Realizing he couldn't capture Yuan, he instead opted for a strategy of mutual damage. Damn it! Everything unfolded in a flash. The mocking smile froze on Yuan's face. He had only enough time to curse inwardly before the seal came crashing down. The Purple Moon Seal engulfed both him and Elder Yunqian in its tremendous pressure. BOMMM. A thunderous blast erupted, shaking the heavens and trembling the void as radiant energy surged violently. Even the Ewing technique needed activation time. Against Elder Yunshin's foresight and self-sacrificing strike, Yuan Xianzun couldn't escape. Thus, both combatants were hit by the full force of the Purple Moon Seal's power. A torrent of violent, immortal energy overwhelmed them. Both let out muffled grunts of pain as they suffered injuries. However, due to the protective power of his moonlight armor and his familiarity with the Seal's energy, Elder Yunshin endured less damage than Yuan. This moment caused varied reactions. Elder Yunchi nodded in appreciation, clearly impressed by Yunshin's decisiveness, while Ewing Daxian's gaze grew darker, filled with cold malice. "You madmen!" But the battle didn't end there. In the chaotic currents, the injured Yuan Xianzun re-emerged, cursing furiously. He still had strength to fight. The situation remained tense. Though Yunshin's tactic had worked, it was a Pyrrhic move. The outcome remained uncertain. The other front doesn't look too good. Meanwhile, Jiang Chengxuan calmly shifted his gaze toward Elder Yundi's battle. Yundi's opponent was another member of the Ewing sect. The two had been fighting intensely, using every method at their disposal. Both had unleashed their full power. Under the burning purple moonlight, Yundi's attacks filled the eerie Chunaming realm. He wielded a crescent moon-shaped blade while standing atop a purple moon wheel, darting through the void, launching wave after wave of attacks. Jiang Chengxuan observed that the purple moon wheel granted Yundi great speed, leaving afterimages behind as he moved. However, even with this advantage, he couldn't match the speed of the Ewing technique. His opponent repeatedly launched surprise strikes, completely controlling the tempo. After several exchanges, Yundi had been forced into constant defense, his face growing increasingly grim. Their fighting styles were inherently mismatched. Yundi's methods had run right into the specialty of the Ewing sect, speed and concealment. "This doesn't look good." After watching for a while, Jiang Chengxuan thought silently to himself. He had little optimism for Yundi's battle. Then he shifted his attention to another battlefield. Amid the chaotic storm, countless sharp heavenly swords hung in the sky like inverted rivers, slicing through the void and shattering swathes of demonic energy. The sword intent was razor-sharp and overwhelming. The two figures fighting were both familiar to Jiang Chengxuan, Aojian Xianzun and Xu Zhang Mazan. Compared to the battles against the Ewing sect, this fight was much more direct and fierce. Both combatants fought with wild, unrestrained force, like tidal waves crashing against the shore, aiming to completely overwhelm the other. Aojian Xianzun had conjured 6 swords, controlling them with flawless precision to slash, pierce, and cleave from every direction. The twisting sword light tore the air like a storm, slicing apart countless phantom demon beasts summoned by his foe. Not to be outdone, Xu Zhang Mazan let loose surging demonic energy from his domain. With an ancient bell in hand, he summoned wave after wave of demonic beasts to swarm forward fearlessly, gnawing at the sword light with frenzied attacks. Each man stood firm in the sky, their immortal auras surging wildly. One commanded celestial swords, the other, a horde of magical beasts, both displaying the might of masters capable of victory from afar. Chapter 18:11, 4 Fierce Battles, the outcome of the fights too. It can be said that the battles were incredibly intense, becoming even fiercer as time passed. As someone who had fought against them before, Jiang Chengxuan had a clear understanding of the battle dynamics. If nothing unexpected happens, the Ao Sword Chuan Zun would definitely suppress the Beast Kang Demon Venerable. This was because their strengths were almost on par, and the injuries Jiang Chengxuan had inflicted on the Beast Kang Demon Venerable previously had not yet healed. This would undoubtedly become a crucial opening for the battle. At this moment, the last battlefield also erupted in a brutal confrontation. Thunderous roars accompanied by the sound of lightning explosions could be heard as violent celestial energy tore through the void, with continuous booming sounds. Jiang Chengxuan turned around and saw the fierce battle between the Mad Blade Demon Venerable and another elder from the Sky Sword sect. These two were even more violent than the other 3 battles. They were truly engaged in close combat. One of them, shrouded in blood-red demonic energy, emitted a terrifying aura, while the other was fully clad in sword energy, with sword light piercing into the heavens. In the blink of an eye, both of them were on the verge of splitting their eyes open in rage, each wielding their own celestial sword and mad blade. In an instant, they swung their weapons, creating millions of afterimages that collided endlessly in the void, clashing thousands of times. The sword and blade light ravaged the area, nearly devouring the entire heaven and earth there, as countless tiny cracks appeared in the space, occasionally erupting with thunder. Blade and sword lights, celestial rivers shining brilliantly, demonic abysses tearing apart. The Mad Blade Demon Venerable and the Sky Sword Sex Xianxia were both fighting with all their might, willing to pay any price to slay each other here. Under such a tense situation, time slowly passed, and the battles in all directions grew fiercer, entering a state where victory or death could be decided in an instant. The first to show a losing position was the battlefield between Yun Tian and the dark abyss Xianxia. In the continuous back and forth, Yun Tian gritted his teeth and with a fearless attitude repeatedly launched self-exploding attacks. With his elusive speed advantage, the dark abyss Xianxia was unable to make use of it. This was precisely one of the fatal flaws of their ghost walk sex technique. When facing such an open confrontation, their ability to attack and retreat freely could not be fully exerted. In a true battle, they could escape with a single blow and continue harassing their enemy until the opponent was truly killed. But in such a direct fight, this method was ineffective. Faced with Yun Tian's resolve to trade life for life, the dark abyss Xianxia could only keep dodging, trying to delay the inevitable. However, in the end, they both fought until exhaustion, and after Yun Tian Elder activated the Purple Moon Seal for the final time, the world shattered under the impact, leaving only one standing. Crash! In an instant, the void trembled, chaos surged, and the dark abyss Xianxia's dark realm retreated like a tide. Under the dim, broken purple moon, Yun Tian's figure stood proudly, despite being covered in wounds, blood soaking his clothes and his white hair hanging loosely. But the determination in his eyes remained unchanged. Cough, old man, I didn't disgrace my mission. Yun Tian laughed weakly, his mouth filled with blood, facing the astonished and solemn gazes of everyone. Well, well. Seeing this, even Yunxi, the elder of their sect, was moved and praised him twice, his expression full of relief. In contrast, the Ghost Walk sect's grand elder looked extremely displeased, coldly staring at the kneeling dark abyss Xianxia. He stretched out his hand, and a massive celestial force immediately condensed into claws, grabbing the dark abyss Xianxia and throwing him behind him, cursing, "Waste." This caused the latter to be hit in his injuries, and he let out a pained grunt but dared not speak out, quietly swallowing a pill to heal himself. Yun Tian Elder, you truly made me look at you with new eyes. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan, standing in for Yunxi, flew over to help Yun Tian back. Seeing the old man's resolute performance, he couldn't help but praise him. His fearless defense of the sect's honor was in stark contrast to the actions of Yun Zhuang. Cough, cough, old man, I almost lost all my bones. Yun Tian smiled bitterly, showing a painful expression. From here on out, it's up to you, Zhang Dai, you cough, cough. At this, the old man finally showed a painful expression and weakly smiled at Jiang Chengxuan. Someone like him, an old Xuan immortal being forced to use self-destructive methods, was clearly nearing the end of his path. Even if they won this battle, he wouldn't be able to fight again in the short term, and it was clear that he wouldn't be able to join the battle again anytime soon. In fact, Yun Tian had decided to fight so recklessly because he had hoped to use Jiang Chengxuan as a final trump card. He was determined to complete his mission by securing this win, even at the cost of his life. Rest assured, Jiang will give it my all. Jiang Chengxuan naturally understood what Yun Tian was thinking, and without any hesitation, he loudly replied. The series of battles had ignited his fighting spirit, and his resolve burned fiercely in his heart. Boom! Just as Jiang Chengxuan helped Yun Tian back to the side of Yunxi, the second battlefield also came to an end. A dazzling purple moonlight shot into the sky, gathering into a sea of purple flames that devoured the sky for hundreds of miles, triggering heavenly thunder and earthly fire. This strange event immediately caught the attention of both Jiang Chengxuan and Yun Tian. Without a doubt, this disturbance came from the battlefield of Yun Dai. As they looked toward the source of the purple flames, the outcome quickly became clear. In the void, a shattered purple moon slowly faded, turning into countless scattered light points. Meanwhile, the ghost realm was broken and full of holes but still indestructible, revealing the panting figure of the Ghost Walk sect elder. As Jiang Chengxuan had predicted, Yun Dai was no match for the elder of the Ghost Walk sect. Ha ha ha, good, good. Seeing this, the grand elder of the Ghost Walk sect, whose face had been icy, couldn't help but break into a satisfied laugh. Blessed by the power of the ancestor, the elder of the Ghost Walk sect also grinned, bowing deeply to the Ghost Walk sect's Grand Elder. This made the Grand Elder exceedingly pleased, and he glanced at Jiang Chengxuan and Yunxi's location, then said with a smile, "Seems like my Ghost Walk sect hasn't lost face. Good job, you will be rewarded." He then used his celestial power to pull the elder back, granting him numerous rewards in front of everyone, causing the other elders of the Ghost Walk sect to envy him. Disappointed in the teachings of the ancestor, Yun Dai is willing to accept punishment. At this moment, She also used his celestial power to bring Yun Dai back, who was now covered in injuries and blood, his clothes in tatters, and his face filled with the marks of battle. "Take care of your wounds." Shi didn't chastise him like the Ghost Walk sect's Grand Elder, but instead said calmly and waved his hand, sending him to Jiang Chengxuan and Yun Tian's side. "Cough, cough, Yun Dai, are you all right?" Sighing, Yun Tian immediately stepped forward with concern, noticing that Yun Dai had given his all, but the heavens had not favored him. "Rest first, we'll talk about the rest later." Jiang Chengxuan interrupted Yun Dai's self-blame, reassuring him. Hearing this, Yun Dai nodded, ceasing his lamentations and sat down to begin healing. "Yun Tian Elder, you should also focus on healing now." "All right, from here on I'll leave it to you, Jiang Daiyu." After persuading Yun Tian to rest, Jiang Chengxuan nodded, knowing what had to be done. With that, the outcome of the first round of battles was clear. Yun Lan Immortal sect had one victory and one defeat, neither gaining an advantage. The Ghost Walk sect had earned a point. Next, the results of the Bloodless sect and Sky Sword sect would soon be revealed. At best, the four major forces would be evenly split, and ultimately, it would depend on Jiang Chengxuan or the Ancestor to determine the final result. Chapter 1812. After the first round of battle, a challenge to all Part 1. The battle still raged on in the void, where star seas churned and countless celestial bodies blazed fiercely. Vast immortal power surged, forming storms that spanned hundreds of miles, roaring incessantly. Jai, the Cloudville Immortal sect truly lives up to its reputation. Even our sect's Ghostwalk Grand Art couldn't claim full victory. At this moment, seeing that both Elder Yunchen and Elder Yundi had begun healing, the Ghostwalk Grandmaster sneered and suddenly addressed Old Man Yunchi. "HMPH." Old Man Yunchi responded with a cold snort, his gaze filled with displeasure. Clearly, the Ghostwalk Grandmaster's words were laced with sarcasm. On the surface, it appeared to be praise for the Cloudville Immortal sect's formidable strength, but in truth, it was a veiled insult, implying that even after millions of years of development, the Cloudville Immortal sect was only on par with the far younger Ghostwalk sect. Such comparisons were deeply resented by ancient sects like Cloudville. "I admit your Ghostwalk techniques are impressive, but even so, you've still stumbled. Why else would one of your elders be missing?" Without hesitation, Old Man Yunchi retorted mockingly. Hearing this, the Ghostwalk Grandmaster's eyes narrowed as he glanced toward Jiang Chengxuan, causing the latter to feel a sudden chill, as if an icy gaze was fixed upon him. What Yunchi didn't know was that the missing elder had in fact perished at Jiang Chengxuan's hands. His offhand mockery inadvertently drew more hostility toward Jiang Chengxuan. Jiang Chengxuan felt a bit helpless, but didn't let it bother him too much. He had always held to a clear creed: if others don't offend me, I won't offend them, but if they do, I'll return the favor tenfold. Since the Ghostwalk sect made the first move to covet treasures and attack him, their elder's death was only natural and justified. He had long since made peace with his actions, with no regrets. Rumble! Before more could be said, thunder cracked through the void, signaling the final moments of the remaining two battlefronts. All eyes turned toward the explosive sounds. In an instant, at the battlefield between the Heaven Sword sect elder and the Berserker Blade Demon Lord, heavenly light tore through the void, severing rivers of stars. Terrifying sword and demonic light clashed, threatening to annihilate everything. At the center of their clash, a blazing sun seemed to rise, igniting the universe. Then sword and blade light exploded outward, shattering space with each strike. Stars were cleaved into countless shards. Even chaos itself was rent asunder. Witnessing this, both the Blood Demon Immortal of the Desolate Blood sect and the Sword Elder of the Heaven Sword sect turned their full attention to the fight. This clash of powers had already reached a level close to that of a golden immortal, a final, all-out confrontation. Rumble. Moments later, the devastating waves of energy began to subside. As the blinding heavenly light faded, a scene of desolate ruin emerged in the void. It's me, I've won. At last, the victor became clear. The Berserker Blade Demon Lord stood amidst the destruction, raising a dim crimson demon blade, grinning ferociously. His entire body was covered in countless wounds. Flesh peeled back, he was soaked in blood, practically a walking corpse. Yet he had prevailed. Thanks to a demonic technique that greatly amplified his blood vitality, he possessed far more stamina than an ordinary immortal. That ultimately was what decided the outcome. In terms of raw offense, the Heaven Sword Elder may have even been stronger. But in such a brutal, close-range slugfest, endurance and defense mattered just as much as attack. And in that regard, the Demon Lord had the edge. Ha good, excellent, well done. The Blood Demon Immortal burst into raucous laughter. Ever since entering the Golden Immortal's sanctuary, the desolate blood sect had faced setback after setback. Finally, he had something to cheer about. How could he not be thrilled? Bring him back. On the other side, the Sword Elder showed little emotion at his disciple's defeat. At his command, one of the remaining elders silently went to retrieve the fallen warrior. In contrast to his superior's stoic reaction, the defeated Heaven Sword Elder looked mortified and ashamed, struggling to even stand. To the Heaven Sword sect, defeat in battle was more unbearable than any punishment, even if no one blamed him. Buzz. Just then, on the Heaven Sword sect's other battlefield, the proud Sword Venerable seemed to have sensed his companion's loss. Without hesitation, he activated an immensely powerful secret technique. Terrifying sword intent ignited the heavens and shook the world. Under everyone's gaze, 6 heavenly swords burst forth from the chaos, piercing the sky and ripping through the demonic beast tide. At once, proud Sword Venerable's body burned with immortal flame, soaring into the air with his swords. In that instant, he stepped onto one of the swords, fusing with it as one. The rest of the swords merged into a single colossal blade. A supreme sword of unity, radiating the might of 10,000 blades under one command. Chapter 18:13. After the first round of battle, a challenge to all Part 2. In the next moment, under the astonished gaze of his opponent, the beast-covered Grandmaster, proud Sword Venerable, unleashed his sword with unmatched force. Suddenly, a crimson galaxy flickered through the universe. A red light spread across the entire area, hundreds of miles around, devouring everything in its path. Countless beasts were reduced to dust within this blinding glow. It's over. As Elder Tianjian's voice murmured softly, proud Sword Venerable's sword struck, and the towering beast beneath the beast-covered Demon Lord collapsed. The Demon Lord himself suffered a backlash, spitting out a mouthful of blood and kneeling on the ground, his face ashen. In that critical moment, had proud Sword Venerable not been cautious of the consequences, this sword might have directly slain the beast-covered Demon Lord. Tusk, what a good sword. Seeing this, Jiang Chengxuan couldn't help but nod, admiring the power of proud Sword Venerable's secret technique. Although, on the day they sparred, proud Sword Venerable had chosen to concede without using this technique. I have not failed you. As the crimson galaxy gradually dissipated, proud Sword Venerable returned to Elder Tianjian's side, bowing respectfully. At this, Elder Tianjian finally showed a rare smile and nodded, saying, "Not bad." Those simple words filled proud Sword Venerable with excitement. He glanced around, a satisfied expression on his face. His gaze eventually fell on Jiang Chengxuan, and the two exchanged a brief nod, an acknowledgement of each other. Useless. Finally, with the enraged curse of the Blood Demon Immortal, the beast-covered Demon Lord fell like a dead man, bringing the first round of the competition to a close. In the vast emptiness, only the residual energy still trembled, and everything fell into a moment of deep silence. No one had expected that, after this first round, all the factions would have identical results. Yunqian of the Cloudville Immortal sect won 1 point, the Elder of the Ghostwalk sect earned 1 point, the Berserker Blade Demon Lord won 1 point, and proud Sword Venerable of the Heaven Sword sect earned 1 point. As a result, the points were perfectly even, meaning the competition had essentially resulted in a draw. If one were to say there was a slight advantage, it would be that proud Sword Venerable had won more cleanly, maintaining some fighting strength, giving the Heaven Sword sect a minor edge. At this moment, Apart from the four golden immortals and proud sword venerable, the only other participant with any remaining strength was a single individual. However, amidst the silence, Jiang Chengxuan subtly transmitted a message to Elder Yunqi. Upon hearing it, the elder's eyes widened in surprise, and he nodded slightly in agreement. Then Jiang Chengxuan stepped into the void and made his way to the center of the four factions, drawing all attention toward him. "Everyone, I have an idea. I wonder if it can be fulfilled." Facing the sharp gazes of everyone, including the two golden immortals, Jiang Chengxuan's expression remained calm as he suddenly smiled. This unexpected statement left the others puzzled, wondering if Jiang Chengxuan was about to challenge someone. Jai. Well, if that's the case, you should tell us." Among all present, it was the Ghostwalk Grandmaster who seemed most curious, taking the lead in responding. With a smile, Jiang Chengxuan made a statement that sent shockwaves through all the immortal sects, causing fierce and piercing gazes to pierce through him. "I wish to challenge the three other great immortal sects at once. I wonder if this is acceptable." This was the earth-shattering decision Jiang Chengxuan had made after discussing it with Elder Yunqi. The words stunned everyone present, including the golden immortals. Both the Ghostwalk Grandmaster and Elder Tianjian exchanged surprised looks, their hearts in turmoil. To challenge all three major immortal sects at once, to take on three opponents of the same cultivation level, this young man must have lost his mind. Only the Blood Demon Immortal and the Berserker Blade Demon Lord showed a sinister glint in their eyes, as if recalling some ominous memories. "I wish to challenge the three great immortal sects at once. Is this feasible?" Silence hung over the entire venue for an extended moment. Only when Jiang Chengxuan repeated his challenge did the stillness finally break. "Old Yunqi, is this also your idea?" At this point, Elder Tianjian's gaze sharpened, but he did not address Jiang Chengxuan directly. Instead, he turned to Elder Yunqi. It was then that everyone remembered Jiang Chengxuan was from the Cloudville Immortal sect. "Hello?" Elder Yunqi calmly nodded in response to the questioning gazes, then addressed the assembled immortals with a serious tone. "This is not my idea, but I am willing to support it. According to the rules of the competition, if you win, each of you will earn 1 point, and the Cloudville Immortal sect will lose 3 points." This statement made it clear that Elder Yunqi had sanctioned Jiang Chengxuan's challenge, and that his support would be behind it. It once again threw the entire assembly into confusion. Apart from the Blood Demon Immortal and his companions, many who were unfamiliar with Jiang Chengxuan looked at him with increasing interest, speculating on his hidden strength. "This person doesn't look like someone from the Cloudville Immortal sect. What is it about him that makes Elder Yunqi trust him so much? Could he really have the ability to suppress 3 opponents of the same cultivation level?" After all, battles between cultivators of the same level were exceedingly dangerous. The previous 4 matches had proven this point perfectly. Every battle had resulted in heavy losses, with no exceptions. Under such circumstances, Jiang Chengxuan's attempt to take on 3 opponents at once seemed like a ridiculous fantasy. "Oh, so you're placing all your bets on this young man?" The Ghostwalk Grandmaster, with an enigmatic expression, spoke up. Though he knew Jiang Chengxuan had defeated 2 of his Grand Elders, he did not consider him overly formidable. Now, with Jiang Chengxuan proposing such a challenge, the Ghostwalk Grandmaster saw it as a potential opportunity for revenge. "Since you're so confident, our Heaven Sword sect will naturally accept." After a moment of silence, Elder Tianjian finally spoke, his voice steady and resolute. Regardless of whether Jiang Chengxuan truly possessed such ability, to refuse such a challenge would be an admission of fear. For Elder Tianjian, weakness was the greatest disgrace. "Blood Demon, are you perhaps afraid?" Seeing that the Ghostwalk Grandmaster and Elder Tianjian had both agreed, Elder Yunqi turned his gaze toward the Blood Demon Immortal, a mocking glint in his eyes as he asked. This question caused all eyes to shift toward the Blood Demon Immortal and his companions, amplifying the tension on their faces. Without hesitation, the Blood Demon Immortal and the 3 Demon Lords locked eyes with Jiang Chengxuan. He too met their gaze with a confident smile, as if provoking them. Both Jiang Chengxuan and Elder Yunqi knew that the ones most aware of his battle prowess were the Blood Demon Immortal and his group. Thus, they were the most wary of Jiang Chengxuan's challenge, contemplating the risks of defeat. If they lost, the Cloudville Immortal sect would immediately gain 4 points and could potentially seize the ultimate victory, securing the majority of the golden immortal insights. For the blood demon immortal and the desolate blood sect, who had long been enemies of the Cloudville immortal sect, such an outcome was unacceptable. Heavy. However, despite Elder Yunqi's mocking gaze and the Ghostwalk Grandmaster and Elder Tianjian's questioning looks, the blood demon immortal could not openly express his fears. HMPH, who was afraid? Since this young man seeks death, I shall grant him his wish. After a moment of silence, the blood demon immortal growled with murderous intent. Good, thank you all for your cooperation. Jiang will be forever grateful. Jiang Chengxuan's smile widened, and he cupped his hands in gratitude toward the three sects. It was as if this impossible battle was already in the bag, easily within his reach. Be careful, his strength is not to be underestimated. At this moment, within the Heaven Sword sect's ranks, Proud Sword Venerable's expression turned serious as he warned his comrades. Having sparred with Jiang Chengxuan himself, he knew full well the mystery and power behind this young man. Chapter 1814. The three immortals join forces. In the sky, the vast universe shimmered with stars, flowing light spreading endlessly, exuding a sense of grandeur. The countless shifting illusory stars hung high above, their hazy light enveloping all the immortals present. In the center of the void, where the four great immortal sects faced off, Jiang Chengxuan stood alone, his gaze calm. The entire battlefield had fallen into an eerie silence and tense atmosphere due to his challenge. Under the differing expressions of the blood demon immortal, the old sword elder, and the ghost walk immortal, the last remaining combatants from the blood sect, the sword sect, and the ghost walk sect each stepped into the air. From three directions, they flew toward Jiang Chengxuan. However, unlike their respective ancestors, they did not regard Jiang Chengxuan's challenge as a suicidal act. Their expressions were serious, with no lightness in their demeanor. Among them, the blood demon immortal's adversary was none other than Jiang Chengxuan's old nemesis, the Ghost King Demon Lord. Upon stepping onto the battlefield, his expression was the most solemn, even showing traces of fear in his eyes. Time and time again, battles had allowed him to see Jiang Chengxuan's true nature. He was truly a monster, an existence akin to a demon. But due to the face of his own ancestor, he could not shrink back. Thus, he could only force himself to accept Jiang Chengxuan's challenge. From the sword sect, the one stepping forward was a grand elder named Liang Xuanzun, one of the sect's top leaders. Although his face remained calm, he had an inexplicable premonition about the upcoming battle. Whether it was Jiang Chengxuan's confidence or the advice given to him by Jiang Xuanzun before he set out, it all made this challenge seem increasingly odd. Nevertheless, deep in his heart, he could not believe that anyone at the Xianxian realm could take on three others at the peak of Xianxian, suppressing them in battle. So bearing the sky sword, he walked toward Jiang Chengxuan, his eyes sharp, and his fighting spirit boiling within him. For someone as proud as him, a disciple of the sword sect, Jiang Chengxuan's actions were undoubtedly a provocation. He was determined to make Jiang Chengxuan pay for his arrogance with strength. The last opponent was the ghost fantasy Xuanzun from the Ghost Walk sect. Coincidentally, he was an old acquaintance of Jiang Chengxuan. Thus, when he stood before Jiang Chengxuan, his eyes were full of hostility, simmering with dangerous intent. Jiang Chengxuan's gaze fell upon him, his expression unchanged. This man was none other than the one who, along with his companions, had once tried to take Jiang Chengxuan's immortal elixir king but was later killed, only to escape with his life by betraying his allies. Clearly, after escaping death, he harbored resentment toward Jiang Chengxuan and saw this moment as a perfect opportunity for revenge. I suppose there's no need for much introduction. Let's begin, everyone, Jiang Chengxuan said, without hesitation, his voice cutting through the tension in the air. In an instant, the wind and clouds surged, and a burst of heavenly light exploded, soaring into the starry sea. Behind Jiang Chengxuan, a magnificent and mysterious Xuan realm unfurled, suppressing the vast emptiness and manifesting strange phenomena. Immediately, his terrifying and vast immortal energy erupted, and an invisible pressure surged, overwhelming the three Xuanzuns with a force that shook their hearts. Without hesitation, the Ghost King Demon Lord, Liang Xuanzun and Ghost Fantasy Xuanzun sprang into action, their respective realms rising with explosive force, as if splitting the heavens apart. A battle, seemingly of great disparity in power, was about to ignite in this fleeting moment. In the deep void, all four realms were activated simultaneously. their dazzling light and overwhelming pressure distorting the space and creating a storm of unimaginable magnitude. The Ghost King Demon Lord manifested a ghostly domain, eerie and dark, with mountains of bones piled high. Huge, decaying evil spirits roamed the mountain range, resembling the hungry ghost path from legend. Liang Chuanzun conjured a sword realm, with towering sword peaks shining with cold light, creating endless bottomless abysses within the profound realm, resonating with the sounds of sword cries. Ghost Fantasy Chuanzun conjured a ghostly nether realm, which contained the principles of life and death, fluctuating between reality and illusion, ungraspable to both gods and ghosts. This was the first time the three great golden immortal powers joined forces, each unleashing their unique abilities. The resulting chaos instantly spread over hundreds of miles, creating terrifying waves of energy. They were all renowned cultivators from the ancient world, and the moment they made their move, their profound backgrounds were evident. However, despite facing the combined pressure of three realms, Jiang Chengxuan's own realm showed no signs of weakening, still shimmering with immortal light and dominating the space. What shocked the other immortals was that, despite Jiang Chengxuan's apparent youth, his cultivation seemed to surpass that of the three veteran Xianxian cultivators present. Indeed, he's something else. Several golden immortals sensed the unusual power in the air, and the ghost walk immortal squinted his eyes, murmuring. The primordial chaos Hengmeng's sword, the black and white divine pearl, the five elements map of heaven and earth, activate. In an instant, a shocking aura burst forth as Jiang Chengxuan swiftly launched his attack. At this moment, his battle intent was burning at its peak. Having witnessed countless battles, Jiang Chengxuan was eager to unleash his power. With the support of vast immortal energy, the primordial chaos Hengmeng's sword, bathed in purple-golden light, was first unleashed, cutting through the deep void and slicing out a long, continuous starry river. Then, a black and white divine pearl manifested in the void, spinning like the Taiji, alongside the five elements map of heaven and earth, unleashing waves of invisible attacks that could make one's soul tremble. Chapter 18:15. The Three Immortals Join Forces. In an instant, the immortal power from Jiang Chengxuan wreaked havoc across the heavens, stirring a terrifying storm, catching Wan Gui Mazan and the others off guard. They had not expected that Jiang Chengxuan would choose to strike first in such a situation. 6. Sovereign Heaven Sword, Summon. But even as a late-stage immortal, Jiang Chengxuan's opponents were no pushovers. Although shocked by his domineering power, they reacted swiftly and counterattacked immediately. In a flash, Li Jiang Chuanzun waved his hand, and behind him, the heaven sword expanded rapidly in the wind, slicing through the deep void, tearing apart a section of empty space as if an invisible hand had wiped it out. Ghostly Path, Ghostly Universe. Meanwhile, Yuhuang Xuanzun also summoned his most powerful divine ability. The ghostly nether realm behind him rapidly expanded, enveloping everything in illusion, and his figure seemed to melt away like ice and snow, disappearing into the world itself, without a trace of aura, as if retreating into another realm. Cut. As Jiang Chengxuan launched his attack, the two of them initiated their first counterattack, moving without the need for complicated coordination. One attacked directly while the other, hidden in the shadows, sought the perfect moment to strike. This deadly cooperation was enough to make their assault a life-threatening one. In an instant, the two forces collided. Jiang Chengxuan's Tai Chu Hong Meng sword clashed with the heaven sword of Li Jiang Chuanzun, and the shockwave rang through the air, the sound deafening as if the very heavens were shaking. Boom! The two immortal treasures, each capable of rivaling a golden immortal's power, collided with a thunderous roar. Numerous cracks were left in the void, deep scars etched across the universe, chaos swirling from the collision. The air was filled with the smell of destruction, with waves of chaotic energy radiating outward, crushing everything in their path. The stars in the vicinity were shattered in an instant. Massive meteors split in two, spewing lava across the cosmos like 100 volcanoes erupting. Jiang Chengxuan had already encountered the offensive techniques of the heavenly sword sect before, and Li Jiang Chuanzun, one of their best, displayed destructive power in every attack. Arrogant fool, today is your end. However, at the very moment of impact, danger suddenly arose behind Jiang Chengxuan. A ghostly figure emerged, its 5 fingers elongated into claws, shrouded in an aura of death, aiming straight for Jiang Chengxuan's back. This was the surprise attack of Yuhuang Xuanzun, Though he had never met Li Jiang Chuanzun before, the two worked together seamlessly. One forced Jiang Chengxuan to show an opening, while the other snuck in for the kill, using the ghostly path technique to take Jiang Chengxuan's life. This was the signature battle style of the ghostly path sect. When paired with others, they became far more dangerous than when they fought alone. Just as expected. But Jiang Chengxuan, being no fool, was well aware of the intentions of these ghostly path cultivators. As the death aura approached from behind, he did not turn his head. Instead, his immortal realm expanded violently, and 4 peaks engraved with ancient runes rose from the ground, radiating power that seemed to pierce through the void. In an instant, Jiang Chengxuan's realm contracted, surrounding him like a protective shield that reflected the illusion of the world. Boom! Yuhuang Chuanzun's clawed hand froze as if it had struck an ice wall, and the huge surge of immortal power only caused a muffled sound, completely different from what he had expected. He hadn't seen Jiang Chengxuan use this method before. I don't believe it. This unexpected reaction infuriated Yuhuang Chuanzun. After a brief pause, he shouted and summoned an ancient, bone-colored clawed weapon, an immortal treasure known as the Death Claw, a key artifact of the Ghostly Path sect. This weapon contained an ancient ability that could siphon life energy and convert it into death energy. Bang, 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 bang. A series of dull, thunderous crashes echoed as the air trembled with every strike of the death claws. The gray light flared as the weapon connected with Jiang Chengxuan's shield, creating bursts of sound like raindrops hitting the ground, warping the space around them. The death aura thickened, slowly consuming the light and engulfing Jiang Chengxuan entirely. They're using the death claw. They've even brought out this immortal treasure. To face 3 opponents and still have this move ready, how highly do they regard this kid? The gathered immortals from various sects gasped in surprise. Even the Heavenly Sword Elder commented. Hearing this, Yuhuan Dashian sneered coldly, saying, "Even when hunting a rabbit, you use full force. If this kid wants to act like a hero, I'll gladly indulge him." But before anyone could react, the situation changed again in an instant. Boom! In a flash, the suffocating death aura was shattered by an immense force, and a figure emerged, surrounded by a radiant, glass-like glow. It tore through the chaotic energy, ascending rapidly. Li Jiang Chuanzun reacted swiftly, his heaven sword slashing through the air in an attempt to cut off the ascending figure and force it back into the chaotic abyss. But just as quickly, a purple-golden torrent erupted from the glowing figure, surging with immense power, piercing through the stars, and heading straight for Li Jiang Chuanzun. Boom! The glass-like glow revealed Jiang Chengxuan, who had broken free from Yuhuang Chuanzun's attack. In the midst of their clash, his power had grown even stronger, and he now unleashed a more formidable force than before. Trying to escape. But just as he began to rise, Yuhuang Chuanzun's ghostly figure emerged again from the death aura, his death claws now transformed into 2 giant, pale hands, aiming to drag Jiang Chengxuan back into the depths. I'll come to assist you. Even Wan Gui Mazan, who had been cautiously observing, seemed to sense something, and with a loud cry, he joined in the assault. It seemed that before one crisis could end, another would begin. As Jiang Chengxuan fought fiercely and responded to every strike, the 3 veteran immortals used their years of battle experience to pull him into a fierce and coordinated attack. It was clear that they were determined to make him pay the price for his arrogance, and the odds of survival for Jiang Chengxuan were growing slimmer by the moment. This truly seemed like a trap with no escape, a situation of certain death. Chapter 18:16, Displaying Strength, Shocking the Battlefield, Part 1. Kekekek, I'd like to see how this brat plans to escape this predicament. As Jiang Chengxuan was besieged by the synchronized assault of 3 formidable, profound immortals, the atmosphere grew increasingly tense. Everyone present was filled with curiosity. Was he truly as powerful as he seemed, or just a conceited upstart about to fall under this relentless offensive? Among the spectators, the grand immortal Yuing appeared the most exhilarated. He knew Jiang Chengxuan possessed some degree of strength. After all, the young man had defeated 2 elders from his Yuing immortal sect. But this situation was far more perilous than anything Jiang had faced before. What methods could this mysterious youth possibly have left? In the blink of an eye, Yuing cast a glance toward Elder Yunxi, only to see the latter's gaze calm and unshaken, as if oblivious to the deadly trap closing in on Jiang Chengxuan. This serenity stirred unease in Yuing's heart. Yet in that very moment, the battle on the field escalated to a climax. The combined onslaught of sword-cracking Venerable, Phantom Shade Venerable, and 10,000 Ghost Demon Venerable sealed off every avenue of escape. In an instant, their terrifying auras erupted with force approaching that of golden immortals. Fellow Taoist Jiang, you mustn't fall here. Even Yun Tian and Yun Dai, still recovering from their injuries, were startled awake by the commotion. They focused their eyes on the battlefield, hearts clenched in silent prayer. Though they had once witnessed Jiang Chengxuan defy the odds against the 3 demon venerables of the Wildblood sect, they weren't sure such a miracle could happen twice. That feat alone was already the kind of legend one could boast of for a lifetime. Rumble! In the blink of an eye, a violent, destructive force surged outwards. Radiant heavenly light engulfed hundreds of miles of sky. The sword that could sever star rivers came crashing down first, slicing open space itself with a chasm of void. Waves of chaotic energy surged forth with boundless fury. Next, a pair of sky-shrouding demon claws, radiating deadly aura, tore through the air, enveloping Jiang Chengxuan entirely. The dense death energy condensed into a great river, layering the storm in an impenetrable shroud. Following that, 10,000 Ghost Demon Venerable unfurled his soul banner. Countless ghostly wraiths howled as they tore through the chaos, locking onto Jiang Chengxuan's aura and swarming in to devour him whole. These 3 overwhelming attacks compressed Jiang Chengxuan into a narrow space where he could barely move. Even with the support of primal runes enhancing his inner world, cracks began to form throughout his realm, light flickering at the edges of each fracture. Scripture of Eternal Manifestation, activate. Just when everyone thought Jiang Chengxuan was about to be crushed, he remained calm, whispering a single phrase. Suddenly, a majestic golden light exploded forth from him, as if a sun had appeared from nothingness, casting brilliance across the entire battlefield. What? No way. Is this the power of a restriction? All 3 of his attackers, 10,000 Ghost Demon Venerable, Sword-Cracking Venerable, and Phantom Shade Venerable, were stunned, exclaiming in disbelief. From that golden light they could feel a fearsome restrictive force erupting. In a flash, the light engulfed everything. Their divine powers and formidable techniques were instantly dulled as if mired in quicksand. Even the devastating aftermath of their clash, the space-staring storms and violent energy, was slowly quelled by that holy force, fading into silence. And this was only the beginning. As the sacred golden light grew more intense, Jiang Chengxuan's inner world suddenly solidified. Golden runes appeared on the borders of his realm, forming a scripture that shimmered with divine mystery, like tightly interlocked golden scales that completely sealed out the raging power. Neither the swordlight from sword-cracking Venerable, the deathclaws of Phantom Shade, nor the soul-devouring ghosts of 10,000 Ghost Demon Venerable could penetrate even a fraction of that barrier. The river of swordlight was forcefully repelled. The deadly storm was shredded by the golden brilliance. Countless wraiths in the face of this holy radiance were burned to ashes with anguished wails. This scene left everyone wide-eyed in disbelief, their faces frozen in shock. Even Grand Immortal Yuing and the Elder of Sword, Tianjin, furrowed their brows, expressions growing sharper. Good, good. Yun Tian and Yun Dai couldn't help but cheer loudly, relief flooding their faces. Hefty. Even Elder Yunqi quietly sighed in satisfaction, a rare smile tugging at his lips. Though he had long known, based on Jiang Chengxuan's past feats, that the youth's strength was extraordinary, far beyond that of ordinary immortals, this was the first time he had witnessed Jiang's combat prowess firsthand. And now, having personally sensed that overwhelming power, he could finally rest easy. This restrictive force alone was already approaching the threshold of a golden immortal. Its might was truly terrifying. It's my turn now, be suppressed. At that very moment, the tides of battle reversed. Bathed in radiant gold, Jiang Chengxuan shattered the siege with unshakable dominance, neutralizing what had appeared to be a certain death trap. Without hesitation, he struck back with overwhelming force, launching a new offensive while his 3 stunned opponents were still reeling. Chapter 18:17, Displaying His Strength, Shocking the Battlefield, Part 2. In an instant, countless golden runes ignited like stars, spreading across the heavens, forming a dazzling celestial canopy of radiant light. Beneath this sacred starlight, the power of divine restriction surged to an entirely new level. Unseen chains seemed to wrap around the bodies of the 3 opponents, myriad Ghost Demon Lord, Riftblade Venerable, and Phantom Venerable, locking their movements in place. This was no ordinary power. It was the 10,000 Saints manifestation scripture, now fully completed by the system, elevated to the level of a golden immortal technique. Its might rivaled that of a true golden immortal artifact. Under its pressure, the three venerables felt as though they were no longer facing a junior cultivator, but a mighty golden immortal in disguise. This is impossible. How can that technique possess such might? The first to fall under Jiang Chengxuan's counterattack was Phantom Venerable, who hovered directly beneath him. With a golden starcy burning at his back and golden flames flickering in his eyes, Jiang Chengxuan descended like a solar deity crashing from the heavens. Phantom Venerable trembled with fear. He had seen this technique before, but at the time it was only strong enough to help Jiang Chengxuan detect opponents' positions. Now it felt inescapable. Even when he invoked his signature ghostly movement art and tried to merge with the netherworld, he found himself sluggish, as if caught in a swamp. There was no longer any freedom to vanish and reappear at will. Panic rose in his heart. From above, Jiang Chengxuan was closing in, like an unstoppable falling sun. Phantom Venerable's hands trembled as he gritted his teeth and roared in defiance. "I refuse to submit." Despite his fear, his years of battle-hardened experience took over. He pushed his panic aside and forcibly drew on his realm's power. He dove deeper into the netherworld, gaining distance, then poured all his immortal essence into his claw of death, unleashing its ultimate form. Once again, the massive claw manifested. Wreathed in death energy, it tore through the void and lunged toward the descending Jiang Chengxuan. Boom! The collision of forces echoed like divine thunder. But under the might of the 10,000 Saints manifestation scripture, the death energy was quickly suppressed, swallowed whole, and dissolved without even a ripple. "Damn it, help me!" Seeing his strongest counterattack wiped out with ease, Phantom Venerable finally panicked. He shouted in desperation. Riftblade Venerable and Myriad Ghost Demon Lord frowned but moved in tandem. Though they had no desire to risk themselves, Phantom Venerable was still their battle partner. If he were defeated, the tide would turn completely. No matter what, they couldn't afford to lose this battle. If they were defeated in front of everyone, even with 3 against 1, they would become laughingstocks across the ancient realm. Perfect timing. Seeing them rush in, Jiang Chengxuan didn't retreat. Instead, he roared with battle spirit, eyes sharp with fighting intent. He spun midair, and with both hands, he struck out simultaneously toward the 2 incoming foes. Boom, boom! The golden sea of divine runes surged with his will, and 2 torrents of sacred power blasted out in both directions. With thunderous roars, divine force transformed into twin bolts of holy lightning, striking at Riftblade Venerable and Myriad Ghost Demon Lord. Suddenly, the overwhelming pressure that had paralyzed Phantom Venerable now bore down on the 2 of them, freezing their hearts and forcing them to brace for impact. Boom! The clash of 3 immense forces erupted in midair, chaos surging as lightning and shockwaves tore through the void. But despite facing 2 opponents of equal realm, Jiang Chengxuan was not at a disadvantage. In fact, he was steadily gaining the upper hand. The crowd gasped in disbelief. For the first time, the many immortals of various sects realized why Jiang Chengxuan had dared challenge 3 venerables alone, because he could. He truly had the strength to fight them head-on. This was a direct clash of raw power. They couldn't understand. How could a fellow peak profound immortal possess power that seemed double theirs? In truth, it was thanks to 2 treasures Jiang Chengxuan possessed, the 9-second Bodhi Lotus Lantern and the Primal Rune. The former granted him an extraordinary recovery rate and continuously refined his immortal essence, making it pure and dense. The latter, even more profound, subtly altered his cultivation realm, enhancing the very fabric of his inner world and making it feel almost real. One raised his ceiling, the other raised his stats. Together, they gave Jiang Chengxuan a reservoir of power far beyond his peers. "So that's the reason," murmured Sword Venerable with a solemn look, as Jiang Chengxuan began his all-out counteroffensive. Unleashing his full strength, Jiang Chengxuan summoned his primeval chaos sword, cloaked in the might of the 10,000 Saints manifestation scripture, and charged once more. Against the combined formation of the 3 venerables, he advanced instead of retreating. His movements were graceful yet deadly, like a soaring swan, like a dancing dragon. Every strike of his sword carried the overwhelming weight of scripture-fueled power, touching the threshold of golden immortal might. Even a casual swing was too much for a single venerable to block. They had to join forces just to hold him off. This one fact made every observing immortal draw in a sharp breath, shocked to their core. His power is become even stronger. Even the formidable blood-fiend demon immortal, watching from the sidelines, couldn't remain composed. He had always known Jiang Chengxuan was no ordinary cultivator, but now he realized he had still underestimated him. After their previous battle, Jiang Chengxuan's strength had grown again, and in such a short time. This boy must not be allowed to live, the blood-fiend thought, his gaze sharpening. The more he understood Jiang Chengxuan, the more he feared him. Even as a golden immortal himself, he didn't dare feel completely safe. And he wasn't alone in this realization. Every golden immortal present sensed it too. This young man possessed terrifying potential. The Sword Elder's eyes lit up, somewhere between admiration and awe. The Ghostwalker Venerable narrowed his gaze, mind turning with countless calculations. As for old man Yunxi, he could no longer contain his joy. His smile broadened as he watched Jiang Chengxuan suppress the enemy venerables, nodding repeatedly in approval. In this moment, the entire battle shifted. The atmosphere turned strange. Inside and outside the battlefield, every onlooker caught in speculation, shaken by the mystery that was Jiang Chengxuan. Chapter 18:18, Ending the Battle, Part 1. Within the battlefield, the situation shifted with blinding speed, unpredictable and treacherous. Before the astonished gazes of all present, the tides turned toward an outcome no one had foreseen. Unleashing the power of the scripture of eternal manifestation, now ascended to the golden immortal level, Jiang Chengxuan erupted with unfathomable immortal might. With the bearing of a sovereign who ruled the heavens and earth, he faced 3 enemies alone, dominating them with absolute force. Amid the raging storms of chaos, brilliant and sacred golden light flickered and flared, shaking the vast expanse of deep space. One after another, golden thunders as vast as heavenly rivers exploded in the void, weaving through the storm like serpentine dragons, shattering space with every strike and releasing an aura of unparalleled destruction. Faced with Jiang Chengxuan's relentless assault, Liang Chuanzun, Wang Guimazun, and Yaohuang Chuanzun were forced into a full alliance. The 3 stood nearly back-to-back, manifesting visions from their respective realms to the extreme, circulating their immortal power into wave after wave of torrents in retaliation. From 3 different golden immortal factions, divine arts and supreme techniques were unleashed in rapid succession, enhanced by their distinct immortal treasures working in concert. All this, just to resist the omnipresent suppressive force and tear open the suffocating layers of seals closing in around them. Countless swords of Liang Chuanzun had already been broken. The sole banner of Wang Guimazun had dimmed, and Yaohuang Chuanzun was being so heavily suppressed by Jiang Chengxuan that his entire body trembled, unable to breathe. As the battle intensified, they finally realized the true terror of Jiang Chengxuan, especially Wang Guimazun and Yaohuang Chuanzun, who recalled the fear he had once instilled in them. Gone was the bravado they had before the battle. In its place was a profound and speechless shock. No one had ever truly believed that at the profound immortal level, someone could take on 3 golden immortals of equal rank and suppress them all. Such a feat was only spoken of in fragmented legends from the ancient times, far too distant to verify. But now, things were different. Watching the battlefield, witnessing Jiang Chengxuan unleash wave after wave of overwhelming force, everyone now understood. This world truly did harbor monstrous prodigies. Such people could not be judged by common sense. Boom! Unleashing the full might of the scripture of eternal manifestation, Jiang Chengxuan had already seized total control of the battle. The primordial Hengmeng sword once again emerged at his command, now infused with the divine scripture's power. It swept through the battlefield like an unstoppable force, cutting through the deep void with explosive force. Wherever the sword light passed, be it deadly mists or ghostly wraiths, all were instantly obliterated. Liang Chuanzun attempted to block with his heavenly sword, but was forced into retreat by Jiang Chengxuan's overwhelming power. Surrender! Jiang Chengxuan's voice rang out, cold and expressionless. He wasn't mocking them, he was offering a chance to end things here. Upon hearing this, the expressions of Wang Guimazun, Liang Chuanzun, and Yaohuang Chuanzun tightened. Their faces showed struggle and hesitation. Under Jiang Chengxuan's unreasonable, all-encompassing suppression, they knew they had no chance of victory. Though he was technically their peer in realm, Jiang Chengxuan felt as if he stood on the other side of an unbridgeable chasm. However, with their patriarchs and comrades watching, how could they just surrender? HMPH, enough talk. If it's a fight you want, then come. You want us to surrender? Never. Faced with the opportunity Jiang Chengxuan offered, the trio gritted their teeth and suppressed their fear. They once again activated their domain powers, let out a battle cry and charged. Jiang Chengxuan's eyes turned sharp. Without holding back any longer, his immortal force shook the heavens. A sea of golden runes surged forth, rolling like a celestial tide to swallow everything in its path. Heaven-splitting sword technique. At this moment, everyone present saw this wave of attacks as the decisive climax of the battle. Each of the three enemies unleashed their strongest divine abilities and immortal treasures in a desperate strike. Liang Xuanzun led the charge. With a sweep of his hand, countless sword peaks rose from his realm, piercing through the void and coalescing into a massive and terrifying heavenly sword behind him. This sword radiated unstable energy, its body riddled with cracks and leaking terrifying sharpness from every fracture, as if a burning star had been forcefully sealed within its core. This was Liang Xuanzun's famed divine technique, with a power that could rival even the strength of a true golden immortal. Its killing intent was so extreme that even he found it difficult to endure. It was a technique that harmed the enemy by 1,000, but injured the user by 800. Yet for the honor of his sect, for the pride of the Heavenly Sword clan, he clenched his jaw, eyes bloodshot, and fearlessly drove the unstable Heavenly Sword into battle. Lian! The members of the Heavenly Sword sect all cried out in solemn reverence. Regardless of the outcome, he had already given everything. It was simply that his opponent was far too extraordinary. Netherheart Claw. Ghost Emperor devours the heavens. Elsewhere backed into a corner, Yaoyuan Xuanzun and Wangui Mazan likewise exhausted every last ounce of their strength. Yaoyuan Xuanzun twisted his netherworld realm, summoning 4 eerie ghost claws, wailing and ghastly, each striking with a heart-piercing motion and moving with uncanny speed toward Jiang Chengxuan. Through a secret technique, he merged himself with the ghost claws, fusing his form and soul, applying the speed of his phantom movement technique. In fact, he reached Jiang Chengxuan even faster than Liang Xuanzun. Wangui Mazan, on the other hand, made a shocking move. He swallowed his own soul banner, merging the power of the myriad ghost laws into his body. In that instant, his flesh began to grotesquely twist and expand, as if transforming into the corpse of a towering giant. Chapter 1819, The Final Battle Part 2. Thick waves of ghostly and demonic energy surged from their bodies, coalescing under their massive control into a gray sun, which came crashing down toward Jiang Chengxuan. This was a desperate final blow from 3 late-stage profound immortals, unleashing the full force of their most powerful attacks. The resulting chaos was no less terrifying than a golden immortal's all-out strike. The deep void trembled violently. For hundreds of miles around, stars exploded, space twisted into waves thousands of feet tall, and storms of chaos raged wildly. Faced with such destruction, the 4 golden immortal experts had no choice but to intervene, releasing their celestial pressure to suppress the aftermath of the clash within a controllable range, preventing further disaster. All the surrounding immortals had their attention fixed on the battlefield, drawing sharp breaths in awe at this spectacle of tragic magnificence. Ninefold Bodhi Lotus Lamp activate. Even Jiang Chengxuan, facing the desperate combined assault of the 3, finally felt some pressure. However, he didn't act arrogantly. In full view of everyone, he refrained from meeting the attack head-on. Instead, he summoned yet another jaw-dropping divine treasure. In an instant, radiant 9-colored light, brighter than gold, erupted from Jiang Chengxuan's position. A massive lotus, vast enough to obscure the heavens, slowly unfurled in the sky, its brilliance dazzling to behold. At its heart swayed a verdant Bodhi tree, glowing with divine brilliance and continuously releasing terrifying immortal power. That energy surged into Jiang Chengxuan's body, instantly boosting his aura to an unimaginable level. Before everyone's astonished eyes, he shattered his limits and stepped into the half-step golden immortal realm. This sudden transformation plunged the disciples of Yuing Immortal Sect and the Heavenly Sword Sect into utter despair. Even the Heavenly Sword Elder and Yuing High Immortal narrowed their eyes in shock, unable to hide their astonishment. Even the seasoned Elder Yunqi was visibly impressed. No one had expected that, in such dire circumstances, Jiang Chengxuan could still break through his limits and unleash such terrifying strength. It was utterly monstrous. Only the desolate blood demon immortal seemed unsurprised, as if he had long anticipated this. Yet, his wariness grew ever deeper. If Jiang Chengxuan wasn't eliminated, he feared he would never find peace. Boom! Before anyone could react, Jiang Chengxuan, empowered by the ninefold Bodhi lotus lamp, unleashed a restrictive force several times more fearsome than before, clashing directly with Liayan Zunzun, Wangui Mazan, and Yaohuan Zunzun. In an instant, his power overwhelmed the combined efforts of the three. Restrictive energy surged through every inch of space, suppressing all fluctuations. Brilliant golden light bathed the world, painting everything in a radiant glow, piercing to the soul. Yaohuan Zunzun's ghostly claws were the first to strike, but as they clashed with Jiang Chengxuan's power, it was like plunging into a massive fireball. The burning restrictive force scorched them to the bone in mere moments. Alorgs! Yaohuan Zunzun let out a soul-wrenching cry as pain seared through him from the depths of his spirit. He watched in horror as the golden flames devoured his ghostly claws, reducing them to ghastly, pale bones. No matter how much immortal energy he summoned, it was like a stone sinking into the ocean, completely suppressed by Jiang Chengxuan's crushing might. Boom! Yet even this devastating sight didn't shake the resolve of the fierce Tianjian Zunzun. Seeing his companion fall, he charged forward with his explosive heavenly sword, tearing through space and slashing apart the layers of golden restriction toward Jiang Chengxuan. Thunder exploded around them as countless bolts of lightning erupted. Liayan Zunzun's eyes were bloodshot as he forced his way to within striking distance of Jiang Chengxuan. The unstable heavenly sword trembled violently, its destructive aura astonishing even under the suppression of the 10,000 saints' scripture. But ultimately, he couldn't break through Jiang Chengxuan's overwhelming strength. Even as he unleashed divine arts at full power, he suffered severe backlash, blood soaking his body, yet he couldn't get any closer, as though a world stood between them. Seal! Jiang Chengxuan's eyes narrowed. With a swift gesture, he formed a series of seals, sending countless golden runes raining down onto the immobilized body of Liayan Zunzun. The runes quickly merged into glowing scripture across his body, the restrictive force sealing his power completely. The unstable heavenly sword finally calmed and disintegrated into a sky full of golden sparks. This scene left the experts of the heavenly sword sect stunned, their expressions filled with conflicted awe. Jiang Chengxuan hadn't destroyed Liayan Zunzun, he had actually saved him. Had the heavenly sword exploded in its unstable state, the backlash would have crippled Liayan Zunzun's foundation. What shocked them was this unexpected act of mercy. Even in battle against his enemies, Jiang Chengxuan demonstrated compassion, an integrity that moved them more than his fearsome strength. "This youth has a remarkable heart," murmured the heavenly sword elder, his expression solemn, regarding Jiang Chengxuan with newfound respect. The cultivator, such character was far rarer than talent. Boom! At that moment, the assault from Wangui Mazan descended with dreadful force. But even after witnessing Jiang Chengxuan's mercy, the attack didn't relent. Still, no one had hope for him anymore, not even the desolate blood demon immortal. As the grotesque ghost king hurled the gray sun toward Jiang Chengxuan, the latter's gaze turned sharp. In response, he summoned a blazing golden sun formed of countless runes. Lifting this golden sun, Jiang Chengxuan hurled it toward the oncoming gray sun. The two collided midair, igniting an inferno that roared across the heavens. Above the void, the two suns clashed, devouring each other with unrelenting force, sending shockwaves through thousands of miles and setting stars ablaze. Wangui Mazan's face twisted with fury as he poured more demonic energy into his sun, hoping to suppress Jiang Chengxuan. But how could he, alone, hope to match someone at their peak? Soon the golden sun swallowed the gray one completely, reversing the tide. In Wangui Mazan's stunned eyes, the golden sun crashed into his demonized body. No rower. Instantly, sacred flames infused with restrictive force engulfed his enormous form, burning his flesh away as his body rapidly shrank. The searing pain drew anguished howls from him. Unlike with Liayan Zunzun, Jiang Chengxuan showed no mercy to this notorious evildoer. He unleashed relentless divine punishment, tormenting him with righteous fury. Enough. We admit defeat. A thunderous voice rang through the sky, halting Jiang Chengxuan's hand. He looked up calmly. Everyone turned in shock toward the speaker, and to their astonishment, it was none other than the proud and ruthless desolate blood demon immortal. His face was cold, eyes fierce, but for some reason he had chosen to concede. To those who knew his nature, this was utterly inconceivable. Only Elder Yunqi understood. Having personally tested Jiang Chengxuan's power, the desolate blood demon immortal knew the battle was already lost. Chapter 1820. A Turn in Events. The Demon Immortal's Challenge, Part 1. As soon as the words of surrender left the mouth of the demon immortal of the desolate blood sect, the deep void once again fell into a heavy silence. All eyes turned toward him, catching only the cold indifference on his face and the sharp glint in his eyes. Patriarch. Seriously wounded, the likes of 10,000 Ghost Demon Venerable, Beast-Hiding Demon Venerable, and Mad Blade Demon Venerable could only whisper with deep emotion. As grand elders of the desolate blood sect, they knew better than anyone just how proud and unyielding their patriarch was. For someone like him to admit defeat, and in front of so many witnesses, the humiliation must have been unbearable. It wasn't just personal, it was enough to tarnish the long-standing reputation of the entire desolate blood sect. How could they not feel bitter and ashamed? However, figures like Sword Ancestor of the Heavenly Sword Sect and the Grand Immortal of the Nether Path were not so focused on the implications for the sect. Instead, they were simply stunned by the fact that the demon immortal would act so uncharacteristically. As for his surrender itself, it was completely understandable. After all, the outcome of this battle had already been determined. It was clear to anyone that the combined efforts of Crack Sword Venerable, 10,000 Ghost Demon Venerable, and Phantom Venerable had no chance of defeating Jiang Chengxuan. The only reason the Sword Ancestor hadn't called off the fight was to preserve his sect's dignity, while Phantom Venerable simply didn't care enough to intervene. Demon Immortal, you've shown great magnanimity. Respected immortals, in that case, I shall consider this victory mine by fortune, and humbly accept your concession. Breaking the silence that hung over all directions, Jiang Chengxuan stepped forward and spoke with calm humility, his tone gentle, even polite. In an instant, the overwhelming celestial pressure he had radiated earlier vanished without a trace. The violent dominance of moments ago melted away, leaving behind a figure of tranquil refinement and grace. This stark contrast made countless immortals narrow their eyes in confusion and amazement. Who was this man truly? How could someone possess such strength and yet be so unfathomably enigmatic? Good, young Jiang, you've truly opened this old man's eyes. Even back in my youth, talents like you could be counted on one hand. You are indeed a fearsome genius. Unsurprisingly, the first to voice approval was Elder Yunqi. He laughed heartily, repeating good 3 times in a row. His joy was unreserved, plain for all to hear. For a golden immortal of his stature to praise someone so openly, there was no doubt how highly he regarded Jiang Chengxuan. And yet no one in the crowd spoke out in opposition. There was no ridicule, no dismissal. Because after witnessing Jiang Chengxuan subdue 3 late-stage profound immortals single-handedly, even the most skeptical were forced to accept reality. His strength was not just rare, it was unprecedented. Elder Yunqi's lavish praise was not flattery, it was fully deserved. HMPH. In contrast to Elder Yunqi's exuberant praise, others were visibly less pleased. Grand Immortal of the Nether Path and the Demon Immortal both wore looks of dark displeasure, their eyes filled with growing wariness. Even the members of the Nether Path sect and Desolate Blood sect appeared uneasy. Seeing someone like Jiang Chengxuan rise to such heights filled them with more turmoil than if their own sects had produced such a genius. After all, both sects were already on poor terms with him, and now he was someone they most feared would rise even further. From their sharp eyes, it was clear they could tell. Jiang Chengxuan had not even revealed his full strength in this battle. Fellow Taoist Jiang, your celestial might is truly awe-inspiring. Your unmatched style leaves me in absolute admiration. As Elder Yunqi broke the ice, Cloud Sky and Cloud Earth quickly followed suit, echoing his praise with booming voices. Without a doubt, Jiang Chengxuan's performance had far exceeded their expectations. He had not only fulfilled their hopes, he had honored the promise he made to them. In that moment, the 2 elders were moved to tears, their weathered faces glowing with pride and youthfulness. In contrast, the expressions of other sect representatives darkened, their faces seemingly aged by the moment, as though Jiang Chengxuan's brilliance had reflected their own decline. Thank you. Meanwhile, the people of the Heavenly Sword sect remained reserved. Sword Revered stepped forward and entered the battlefield, retrieving the sealed Crack Sword Venerable. Before leaving, he offered a brief word of thanks. In response, Jiang Chengxuan returned a respectful gesture and lifted all remaining restrictions from Crack Sword Venerable. As for 10,000 ghost and phantom venerables, they dragged their wounded bodies back to stand behind their patriarchs. Jiang Chengxuan made no further move to attack, especially with golden immortals present. He wouldn't gain much by striking now. In that case, we of Cloudmist Immortal Sect will gladly record these 3 points. Hehe. Young Jiang, your contributions in this battle are truly immense. Regarding the promised golden immortal insights, I will ensure you receive them in full. With the strange atmosphere lingering in the deep void, Elder Yunqi once again chuckled warmly. This battle, after all, had ended with an almost unbelievable victory for Jiang Chengxuan, which meant, naturally, that Cloudmist Immortal Sect had secured 3 points, putting them at a commanding lead over the other sects. Moreover, after these intense rounds of battle, only Jiang Chengxuan and Sword Revered remained with sufficient strength to fight, aside from the 4 golden immortals. Even if Sword Revered could defeat Jiang Chengxuan, he would not be able to surpass him in score. Chapter 1821. A Turn in the Tide, the Demon Immortals Challenge, Part 2. Let alone defeat him, facing Jiang Chengxuan, that cultivator didn't stand a chance. Accepting the duel would have only meant handing over another easy point to Jiang. At this stage, Cloudville Immortal Sect had all but secured victory in the competition. They were poised to gain half of the golden immortal insights, a reward of immense value. Little wonder that old man Yunqi had already begun celebrating. One must repay the grace of a sovereign with loyalty. Ancestor Yun overpraises me. Jiang Chengxuan replied with a faint smile, finally allowing himself to relax a little. Still, whether public or private, Jiang had no intention of turning down a share of those golden immortal insights. He wasn't about to pretend to be magnanimous. Truthfully, even if Jiang were inclined to refuse, old man Yunqi would never pass up the chance to win him over. He'd insist on sharing a portion regardless. Well said. Old man Yunqi nodded in approval before turning to the other 3 golden immortals and asking, "So, my fellow Taoists, shall we continue this match, or is it time to concede?" Though posed as a question, his words made the expressions of Ewing and the blood-fiend demon immortal darken. As for the Sword Elder, he took it well. He knew how to win and how to lose. Seeing Jiang Chengxuan on the field, he recognized that the Cloudville Immortal Sect was all but invincible today. With a calm face, he stroked his short beard and said, "I have no objections." HMPH. But just then a cold sneer echoed. Ewing Grand Immortal stepped forward and declared, "The competition isn't over yet. What's the rush?" "Oh?" Old man Yunqi's gaze sharpened as he looked at him, puzzled. The crowd followed suit, shifting their attention toward Ewing. Could it be that the Ewing Immortal Sect still had a trump card? But seeing the stunned, confused expressions of their grand elders, completely unaware and caught off guard, that possibility quickly seemed unlikely. Does the Grand Immortal have something to add?" Jiang Chengxuan responded calmly, unfazed, his expression steady. He was ready for anything. As long as it fell within the rules of the competition, he believed he could overcome it. This doesn't concern you, boy." Ewing Grand Immortal snorted, brushing Jiang aside. Then, turning to old man Yunqi, he said coldly, "Yunqi, I challenge you. Do you dare accept?" The sudden shift stunned everyone, including old man Yunqi, who furrowed his brows and barked in displeasure. "What's the meaning of this? Do you truly believe you can suppress me? What a joke." Clearly, Ewing's challenge, along with his tone, suggested he had a plan to overturn the situation. And the only way to overtake Cloudville Immortal Sect's points now would be if their respective ancestors clashed, and one emerged victorious. In other words, Ewing would have to defeat Yunqi. Such a move was nothing short of contemptuous. How could Yunqi not be furious? "You'll never know until you try." With a sinister grin, Ewing offered no more explanation. He unleashed a shout and abruptly summoned his immortal power, launching a sudden and fierce assault. The crowd gasped. No one had expected this. Before they could process what was happening, the terrifying power of 2 golden immortals erupted, shaking the heavens and the depths of space. "Arrogant fool, let me see what you've got." Old man Yunqi's fury ignited instantly. Without hesitation, he called forth his golden immortal might, and behind him, a radiant white hole took shape, swiftly forming a mysterious, ethereal cosmos. Boom! In a flash, the 2 golden immortal powers collided, as if 2 vast star systems had crashed into each other. The deafening explosion tore across the battlefield, sending shockwaves sweeping through thousands of miles. Space warped and cracked under the pressure, forming a devastating storm. What the hell? Has Ewing gone mad? Many immortals who failed to retreat in time cursed loudly, scrambling to shield themselves and escape from the battlefield. Though the Sword Elder found it puzzling, he didn't interfere. After all, this was within the rules, and Ewing had always been erratic. It wasn't the first time. Boom, boom. In the void, storms raged and blinding divine light exploded like miniature suns, shaking the very fabric of the starry sky. Though the duel had come suddenly, neither combatant held anything back. Each move was made with lethal intent. Ewing commanded the dark and ghostly powers of the netherworld universe. His techniques were swift and intangible, striking silently and suddenly, faster than light itself. Xianxia, meanwhile, wielded a hazy and mysterious cosmos. Purple energy surged and countless violet stars erupted in brilliance, each carrying tyrannical might. Neither side relented. Blow after blow, their duel warped the stars and twisted the galaxy. You call that power? You've really overestimated yourself. In between exchanges, Xianxia mocked him mercilessly. He found it laughable that Ewing thought he could gain the upper hand. Strangely though, Ewing, usually volatile and proud, was unusually calm. He ignored the taunts and fought in silence. This growing oddity made Xianxia increasingly uneasy. Even Jiang Chengxuan, watching from the sidelines, felt something was off. He couldn't understand why Ewing would think he could win, especially against Xianxia, a renowned elder of the ancient realms. They had clashed before in the golden immortal ruins. Their strengths were well known to each other. What could Ewing possibly be hiding? Then, just as Jiang suspected, the answer revealed itself. Amidst the climax of the duel, as the battle between the two golden immortals reached its most intense point, a black shadow suddenly descended before Jiang Chengxuan, bringing with it a crushing pressure. Jiang reacted instantly. Summoning his immortal power, he fended off the oppressive force and looked up to find the blood-fiend demon immortal standing before him, eyes locked on his own. What does the demon immortal intend? Jiang asked calmly, already sensing something unusual, but he showed no fear. The demon immortal's expression hardened. His aura surged like a storm as he declared, "I will suppress my cultivation to the profound immortal realm and challenge you. Boy, do you dare accept." The words echoed like thunder, shocking the entire battlefield. All eyes turned toward the confrontation. No one had expected this. In this critical moment, the blood-fiend demon immortal had voluntarily lowered his cultivation to challenge Jiang Chengxuan directly. The sheer audacity of it left everyone stunned. Isn't this too much? The first to speak weren't enemies but Jiang's own companions, Yunqian and Yundi, who stood behind him. They sensed the demon immortal's ill intent and stepped forward, voicing their indignation and attempting to stop him.